Chapter 1872. In the hunting school, anyone with a serial number after 100 was a slave. What did a slave mean here? It meant someone who could be bullied at will and could not fight back even if they were killed. All in all, 211 and Yun Jian were not on the same level. Yun Jian's serial number was 16. It was obvious that she was a new student. 211 was a slave here, which meant that 211's status was lower than a dog's. The group of women around her, including Yi Ling, were all slaves. Hence, 211 dared to be arrogant in front of people of the same rank because they were all of the same rank. Just like slaying God from the kosher mercenaries, compared to a normal member of the kosher mercenaries, this analogy could be used to describe the difference in status between Yun Jian and 211. Therefore, Miss 211's expression changed abruptly when she heard Yun Jian's words. She stared at Yun Jian in disbelief as her expression changed drastically. You're a student? Not a slave? She was different from them. She was not a slave. 211 thought that Yun Jian was a slave because Yun Jian was young. There were many women who were Yun Jian's age who were brought into the hunting school. Moreover, which hunting school had a female student? Only men like Chen Yang and Ding Jianlin could enter the hunting school and become its students. Not only was Yun Jian a girl, but she was also so young. 211 did not mix Yun Jian with the students of the hunting school because of this. Yun Jian's words almost scared 211 to death. Needless to say, 211's status in the hunting school was not on the same level as Yun Jian's. When 211 heard Yun Jian's words and saw Yun Jian's serial number, which symbolized her status, she was stunned for a few seconds. She was so scared that she fell to the ground and begged for Yun Jian's forgiveness. The group of women behind 211 also knelt down in fear and begged for forgiveness. Yun Jian was too lazy to argue with this group of women. She didn't come here to argue with these women, so she softly shouted, "Scram!" Seeing this group of women scram out of here in fear, she didn't bother with them anymore. After these women left, Yi Ling let out a sigh of relief. Just as she let out a sigh of relief, someone knocked on the door. It was a man. This man was quite polite. He knew that this was the female dormitory, so he didn't enter directly. "Are you looking for me?" Yi Ling pointed at herself and asked. "Master Lin Wei is looking for you," the man said. Yi Ling was stunned. For some reason she turned to look at Yun Jian. "Go ahead," Yun Jian said and closed the door. Obviously she did not want to let Yi Ling in. Yi Ling was stunned and followed the man to Lin Wei's residence. Everyone here respectfully addressed Lin Wei as Lord Lin Wei. After the man brought Yi Ling into Lin Wei's place, he closed the door and left. This made Yi Ling a little scared. Yi Ling wanted to open the door but found that it was locked. She tried to open it twice but to no avail. When she turned around and saw Lin Wei standing behind her, she was so scared that she leaned against the door. "Master Lin Wei, why are you looking for me?" Yi Ling swallowed. "Do you remember what you said just now?" Lin Wei said simply. Yi Ling didn't know what to say but she still nodded. In front of a big shot it was best to nod. Otherwise her life would be in danger. This was Yi Ling's experience. Seeing Yi Ling nod, Lin Wei suddenly walked in front of Yi Ling and placed his hand on her chest. "Oh, what are you doing?" Yi Ling was so scared that she pushed Lin Wei away. "Making a baby," Lin Wei said simply. Then he added, "You promised." Was he serious? Yi Ling's eyes turned. Yi Ling did promise Lin Wei just now to avoid Buddy. She wanted to use Lin Wei's identity to make Buddy not dare to do anything to her in the future. Just as Yi Ling was thinking, Lin Wei walked over and trapped Yi Ling in front of the door. Seeing that Yi Ling didn't make a sound, Lin Wei leaned over and buried his head in Yi Ling's neck. I lied to you. I'm sorry. I didn't do it on purpose." Yi Ling was scared now. She struggled to speak. The next second Lin Wei grabbed Yi Ling's wrist, which was completely harmless to him. His eyes met Yi Ling's and his breathing became heavy. His words were still simple and easy to understand. Chapter 1873. If Yi Ling had rejected him at first, Lin Wei would not have forced her. However, since she had agreed, she could not reject him. This was Lin Wei's way of doing things. Once she had agreed, there would be no more room for discussion. Yi Ling's pure blue eyes were exceptionally alluring. Her long eyelashes fluttered up and down, setting off her pair of beautiful eyes. Unlike pretty girls who wore contact lenses, Yi Ling's eyes were pure blue, a beauty born from nature. It also attracted Lin Wei's attention. Since Yi Ling could survive the lion's blood, she was naturally not weak. However, Lin Wei was the most powerful among the 4 leaders of the Inhun organization. He was in charge of the Inhun organization's assassin training camp and had trained many powerful people. To be fair, Yun Jian would not be who she was today if it were not for Lin Wei's guidance when she was slaying God. Although Yun Jian was powerful and her current ability was even more powerful than Lin Wei's, without Lin Wei's guidance back then, her ability would not have expanded. Moreover, Lin Wei's ability was something that could take the world by storm if he were to announce his name. Yi Ling was no match for him at all, so there was nothing she could do when Lin Wei grabbed her wrist. Yi Ling was a smart person. This could be seen from the fact that she knew how to use Lin Wei's identity to stop Buddy from harming her back in the huge cage when she knew that Buddy had bad intentions toward her. However, Yi Ling did not expect Lin Wei to take it seriously. Yi Ling immediately looked at Lin Wei. She swallowed her saliva and tried to negotiate with Lin Wei without any confidence. I lied to you on purpose, I admit that. I'm very sorry about this. I know that I'm not qualified to talk about conditions with Master Lin Wei now, but can you wait until I leave the hunting school until I have my own strength? No matter what you ask of me, I'll agree to it. Yi Ling was not confident when she said that. After all, she had nothing at the moment. All right. Yi Ling was relieved to hear what Lin Wei said. However, just as Yi Ling was relieved, Lin Wei grabbed her wrist and pulled her into his embrace. He then carried her and said coldly, I want you to bear my children. Yi Ling was speechless. In the female dormitory building, Yun Jian and Yi Ling's room. After Yi Ling was called away by the people sent by Lin Wei, Yun Jian not only closed the door directly but also locked it. At this moment, she was resting on her bed with her eyes closed. Knock, knock, knock. At this moment, someone knocked on the dormitory door again. The door to the dormitory was very old. The people outside could easily break the lock with one kick. Since the people outside chose to knock on the door, it probably wasn't the people from 211. Yun Jian stood up, walked to the door and opened it. What he saw was a very ordinary and unfamiliar man's face. Young madam, I am Guiying. She couldn't wait for her to go to Lin Wei's place. In the end, Yi Ling simply packed her things and moved out. Yi Ling's best choice was to move out. On Lin Wei's side, he had Lin Wei's protection. Tonight was destined to not be a peaceful night. Yun Jian closed her eyes and continued to rest. At night, at 1:30 in the morning. You're so annoying, Master Buddy, please be gentler. In room 211, 211 was doing some vigorous exercise with Buddy. Her roommates were all there, but they were already immune to her and Buddy's actions. They couldn't accept it. They couldn't accept seeing Yi Ling move to Lin Wei's place. The fatty meat in their mouths had run away. After that, 211 could tell at a glance why Buddy was angry. She suddenly remembered what Yun Jian had done to her during the day. She rolled her eyes and recommended herself to Buddy. Master Buddy, although Yi Ling left, there's a girl who's prettier than her living in her dorm. Oh. When Buddy heard that, his perverted face narrowed. But that girl is a student of our hunting school. I don't think it'll be easy to deal with her. 211 lowered her head and sighed. Student? There's only one girl in this cohort. Could it be her? Buddy suddenly thought of Yun Jian, and anger immediately surged into his brows. He was still in pain from that kick. Master Buddy, do you know that girl? Let's not talk about anything else. I think she's quite hot. 211 leaned on Buddy. Buddy suddenly licked his lips and revealed a sinister smile. Since that girl dares to treat me like this, I must have her. As he spoke, Buddy thought of Yun Jian's beautiful face and body. He grabbed 211 and started another round of exercise. Chapter 1875. At 3 o'clock in the morning, Buddy had already returned to his place. He grabbed a few women who were good in bed and took turns to serve him. Now he finally calmed down the anger of Yun Jian's kick during the day. At 3:15 in the morning, the night finally quieted down. Yun Jian, who had been resting with her eyes closed during the day, suddenly opened her eyes in the dark. Her beautiful black eyes seemed to reflect a strange light. In this hunting school, unless she was an international student, the moment she entered the school, no matter how good her previous achievements were, she would have to start all over again. Except for the fact that men from different countries were better than women, those who could enter the hunting school were usually men. If you want to know the reason, it's probably because in a hunting school, no matter what happens, men are always better than women. If a woman lost her virginity here, her whole life would be ruined. And if a man was raped, it was probably done by a gay man. Unless there was a woman who was so fierce that she couldn't find a man to rape her. About 3:35 in the morning, an earth-shattering sound was heard. In the next second, both the boys' and girls' dormitories seemed to have been blown up by something. Was there an earthquake? That was the feeling. What happened? What happened? What happened? In the boys' dormitory, the men from different countries all got up in fright. They put on their clothes and got up from their beds very quickly. They all came from the army and were elites from different countries. Of course, these men couldn't be weak. Soon, they put on their clothes and rushed out of the dormitory. Bang, bang, bang. But when they rushed out of the dormitory, they were faced with gas bombs one after another. The gas bombs fell from the sky one after another, just like on the battlefield, making them confused. What the hell is going on? A foreign man exclaimed. Everyone was terrified. Among this group of foreigners, the calmest ones were probably Qin Yang and Ding Jianlin. Perhaps influenced by Yun Jian's calmness, Qin Yang and Ding Jianlin became calm and collected when they ran into trouble. Don't panic. There must be a reason for all of this. Qin Yang frowned and kindly reminded them. At this moment, the large loudspeaker in the dormitory building sounded, and Chief Instructor Jamil's voice immediately rang out. Hey, students, how was your rest last night? Did everyone enjoy tonight's gift? After cracking a joke, Jamil quickly got to the point. I forgot to tell you before I entered the school. Our emergency assembly in the middle of the night, including the bugle call to wake up, uses gas bombs instead of whistles and bugles. You, on the other hand, must pass through our dormitory building amidst the gas bombs and reach our large field within 3 minutes. Chapter 1877. That one sentence summed it all up. However, after hearing Yun Jian's words, everyone present, including Jamil, twitched their mouths. They stood rooted to the ground in shock, unable to react for a long time. What did she mean by the bombs were not powerful enough? The surprise attack of the gas bombs earlier had already caused many people present to suffer from abrasions. A few of them were even seriously injured. Wave after wave of bombs was simply too much for the people present to handle. And Yun Jian. She actually said that the bombs were not powerful enough? Using bombs of this level for a surprise attack was useless? Did she mean that it was completely useless? What do you mean by that? Do you think you're so great? Young lady, let me give you a piece of advice. You're pretty strong, capable, and talented. This is your ability. However, in this world, it doesn't mean that you can spout nonsense just because you're strong, capable, and talented. If this goes on, you'll eventually have to pay the price for your nonsense. After hearing Yun Jian's words, a foreign man's face froze. Then he spoke to Yun Jian in an adult tone. So what if Yun Jian was powerful? Seeing how arrogant she was, even if she had the ability, she would have to pay the price for her arrogance. I don't know if I'll have to pay the price in the future, but I know that the strong are all born under impossible circumstances. Today you think that you're very strong for dodging a bomb of this level. Then tomorrow you won't continue to work hard. As for the price you're talking about, if I become the king, who can do anything to me? Yun Jian's words rang out word by word, spreading to every corner of the place. Everyone who stood rooted to the ground, including Jamil, pricked up their ears. No one had expected Yun Jian to have such resolve. Yes. Everyone thought that Yun Jian was arrogant and felt that she was indeed amazing for having such strength at such a young age. However, many young elites had spoken rudely, arrogantly, and spouted nonsense because of their arrogance and because they thought that they were powerful. In the end, the price they paid was that all their talents were destroyed. But no one had expected Yun Jian to say such things. If she became the queen, who could do anything to her? At such a young age, he already had such deep ideals. This point made everyone present have no choice but to be convinced. Clap, clap, clap. While everyone was deep in thought, Jamil clapped his hands again. Then Jamil's hearty laughter rang out. Good little girl. Ah, good. You have a bright future. With that, Jamil's face suddenly darkened and he said to Yun Jian eerily, I hope you can successfully graduate from the hunting school. Graduation meant that they would be able to leave the hunting school alive. After saying this, Jamil ended the emergency late-night assembly. After instructing everyone to leave, everyone went back to their dorms. Yun Jian was no exception. She turned around and walked leisurely to her dormitory with her hands in her pockets. 16. Qin Yang and Ding Jianlin stopped Yun Jian. Upon hearing this, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and turned around. You are excellent. Qin Yang and Ding Jianlin gave Yun Jian a thumbs up. Thank you. Yun Jian nodded and replied, You too. Seeing this, Qin Yang and Ding Jianlin scratched their heads and walked back to their dormitory. The moment she turned around, Yun Jian felt a pair of dark eyes staring at her in the dark. Yun Jian paused for a moment, but didn't stop walking back to her dormitory. In the dark, the owner of the pair of dark eyes saw that Yun Jian didn't notice him walking back to her dormitory. This pair of dark eyes flashed even more sharply. Which god we finally meet again. Chapter 1878. After Yun Jian returned to her dormitory, she fell asleep immediately. Yi Ling had moved in with Lin Wei, so she would be the only one in this dormitory from now on. The night passed uneventfully. Although the emergency assembly in the morning was at 3 o'clock, Yun Jian had rested during the day, so she did not sleep much the next morning. Yun Jian woke up at 4:30 in the morning. She only slept for more than an hour and went out for a morning run. When she came back it was already 5 o'clock. At 5 o'clock the gas bomb's reveille horn arrived as promised. Everyone was worthy of being elites from various countries. With last night's experience, everyone cleverly avoided the gas bomb's surprise attack. Although everyone's faces were still as black as charcoal from the gas bomb's dust and their clothes were also covered in dust, compared to last night's injury rate, no one was injured today. Perhaps it was because of what Yun Jian had said, or perhaps it was because of their first day at the hunting school. Everyone unanimously asked Jamil to be stricter with them. The hunting school's training lasted for a year. In other words, within this year the special forces of various countries would have to undergo a lot of inhuman training. If they could not take it, they would be disqualified midway and not allowed to graduate. Even if they were seriously injured midway, as long as they did not rejoin the team after 48 hours, they would be disqualified. Moreover, within this year, there would be countless gunfights and actual combat selections. For example, when they crawled forward, bullets would fly above their heads, and the selected personnel would not have any protection. If they deviated from the direction, they would even trigger a mine. Therefore, the mortality rate of the hunting school was extremely high. For this reason, some students would not be able to complete the hunting school's graduation mission and return to their hometown with regrets. Some students would unfortunately lose their lives. Returning to reality, Yun Jian was still the first to arrive at the designated field. Although the other students were a little slower, they were much faster than yesterday. Other than Yun Jian, the special forces of the other countries had all experienced the training of the special forces of various countries. Their foundation was naturally deeply rooted. This group of people had to remember one thing when they came to the hunting school. They were not here to train to become special forces. Instead, they wanted to reach a higher level within the scope of the special forces and become a true powerhouse. The people who came here were not weak. When everyone gathered at the field, Jamil gave everyone a 20-kilogram combat backpack and asked them to carry it on their backs for 20 kilometers of cross-country marching training. This was a task that he had to complete every morning when he woke up. In the next 15 days, Yun Jian and her team completed more than 20 dangerous courses under actual combat conditions that they had to complete in order to enroll in the school. Yun Jian did not have an outstanding performance. On the contrary, she was one of the worst performers. This made everyone feel slightly surprised, but no one thought too much about it. On the 16th day of the hunting school, the real training officially began. Early in the morning, after completing the 20 kilograms and 20 kilometers cross-country training, Jamil brought them to an open space. After Jamil brought everyone to this empty space, he left for the time being to give everyone some time to rest. Everyone present sat on the lawn. It was rare for them to have time to rest like today. The training from the past few days had made everyone breathless, so they all sat down. Yun Jian leaned against a big tree and closed her eyes to rest. 16. 16. Qin Yang shouted at Yun Jian. Seeing this, Yun Jian opened her eyes and walked over. She saw that the field that was filled with men just now was suddenly filled with women from 211. They're good girls, they're here to bring us water. Qin Yang said to Yun Jian after drinking a bottle of water handed to him by 211. Obviously, Qin Yang was deceived by 211's appearance. I heard that you guys will be skydiving later. It was Mr. Buddy who told me. Now Mr. Jamil should be calling for a large helicopter to carry you guys into the air. 211 told everyone what he knew in a friendly manner. Speaking of this, 211 turned to look at Yun Jian and said to Yun Jian with a nice face, "They are all men, and you are the only girl here. Can you really do skydiving? And I heard that you are still in high school. They have all been through formal training, but you're just a high school student." 211 had a worried look on his face. Skydiving? Yun Jian raised her eyebrows. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy, you look so delicate. Why don't you ask the instructor for a leave and not go? 211 said eagerly, but before she finished, she was interrupted by Yun Jian. Under the instructions of the pilot, everyone equipped with parachutes sat in the large helicopter, and the helicopter immediately took off. Jamil stood on the ground, narrowed his eyes, and looked up at the large helicopter that was gradually flying into the sky. At some point in time, Lin Wei walked over from not far away. Jamil glanced at Lin Wei, then curled his lips and said, "How many of them do you think will be able to walk out of the forest alive?" Landing successfully from a high altitude was only a small step. The people from various countries who came here were all eyeing each other covetously. How could they guarantee that they would be safe after finding such an opportunity to be alone? "That girl won't die." Lin Wei only said this one sentence. It was not only because Yun Jian was the young madam of his Hun organization. The reason why Lin Wei was even more convinced of this point was that he also saw in Yun Jian that overlapped with his memories. She was also the strongest woman in history who had been trained by him, and no one could surpass her. Chapter 1880. Lin Wei did not have much contact with Yun Jian. Ever since CE went to Longmen City diligently, Lin Wei was mostly in an Hun group. Even if he had bumped into Yun Jian a few times, it was not more than 5 times. Out of these 5 times, the number of times he spoke was pathetically low. Or perhaps he had never spoken to Yun Jian at all. CE knew that Yun Jian was slaying God, so he would not spread the news. Even if Snow Eagle, Adam, or Mo Sin knew about Yun Jian's identity, they would not mention it easily. This was why Lin Wei was clueless about Yun Jian's background. He only knew that Yun Jian had some dealings with the kosher mercenaries, but he would not know that Yun Jian was slaying God, SS. This is an interesting game. Let's wait and see. Jamil's lips curled into a smirk when he heard Lin Wei. Yun Jian, who was sitting in the helicopter, was already equipped with a parachute. The women in 211 did not have the right to follow. Yun Jian was currently sitting in the helicopter's cockpit. While everyone was checking their parachutes, they were doing a long jump of 3,000 meters to the cabin door and leaped without hesitation, too high nor too low the way out. When the cockpit door opens later, jumped out just like that. I'll be the first to jump. When someone saw this, his hand that was still checking his loud voice equipment stopped. Maidan was obviously showing off his masculinity in front of everyone. In time. Perhaps Maidan did not need to show off his masculinity in front of a bunch of men. However, there was a woman sitting in the Ding Jianlin from Z country. Don't be nervous. Qin Yang and Ding Jianlin were excellent special forces soldiers and came from country Z with Yun Jian. Both of them followed after Yun Jian when they saw her leap out. So despite knowing Yun Jian's ability, Yun Jian's age jump out of the helicopter one after another. It wasn't like the helicopter didn't move at all. Nodded, expressing in addition, the momentum of jumping down would cause the helicopter is flying at 1 meter. Usually, people who landed would not bump into 299 meters. Yun Jian put away her parachute after landing. The instructor's voice rang continuously. Everything was very natural. 3,000 meters, which was the height after landing, the helicopter suddenly heard a rustling sound. Planes carrying passengers at the airport were not allowed to stop suddenly. The owner of the sound was no stranger to her. They had to glide down slowly. It was Buddy in 211. A helicopter could stop at a high altitude. Mr. Buddy, according to the same thing was that the propellers on the helicopter could not stop rotating. Chapter 1881. If the propellers stopped rotating, after the helicopter finished speaking to 211, the cockpit door is open. Suddenly shushed him. "You can parachute then now," he said to 211 in a voice that only the 2 of them could hear. At this moment, stop the door of the engine room. She should be nearby. At an altitude of 3,000 meters, only the two of them could hear what Buddy said to 211 rushed in. However, Yun Jian's ears were very down in front of Yun Jian's face, but when the cockpit lowered his voice to the lowest decibel, "I'll check my parachute." Yun Jian could still hear what he said to 211. Everyone checked their parachutes. After 2 seconds of silence, Buddy's voice rang out again. There was a little bit of panic in their hearts that was causing trouble. Of course. Who wouldn't be afraid of falling from 3,000 meters in the air? 211 said confidently. Yun Jian had indeed drunk the water that 211 gave her. If she hadn't, how could she have seen through 211's schemes so clearly? Very good. This way she won't be able to resist me. I have a feeling that she must be nearby. Hurry up and find her for me. Buddy kicked 211. His sharp eyes seemed to have seen Yun Jian's hot body. His face darkened as he took the GPS device. It was obvious that Buddy was able to get the GPS device because he had done something with Jamil. "Master Buddy, the GPS device is reacting. She's there." 211 suddenly pointed to a spot and said to Buddy in surprise. After destroying Yun Jian, there was hope. The sky gradually darkened. This high-altitude parachute jump was not a competition, nor was it a competition. It was simply a training exercise for them to perform high-altitude parachute jumps. After everyone landed, Jamil sent people into the forest one by one to look for Yun Jian according to the GPS device's instructions. After everyone was found, Jamil frowned. 16 is missing? Jamil asked. Lin Wei stood at the side unhurriedly. She was the first one to jump down, someone added at this time. Follow the GPS device's instructions and follow me to look for her. Jamil frowned again and led everyone, including the few women who were with 211, into the forest. By the time they found the GPS device's chip according to the GPS device's instructions, it was almost dark. When the crowd found their destination, they were all shocked by the scene before them. They saw, Buddy and 211 were tied to a tree by parachutes. They were naked and hung from the tree. Leaves were stuffed in their mouths so they couldn't speak. On the ground facing the two of them, there were many razor blades scattered all over the place. If Buddy and 211 broke free and fell to the ground, they would be pierced by these blades. Even if they didn't die, they would definitely be half dead. Hence, Buddy and 211 hugged each other and didn't dare to move. The moment he saw Jamil, Buddy even started moaning. "What's going on? Are you having sex in the air? Instructor Jamil, your subordinate is really hardcore." Someone mocked Buddy while laughing at Jamil. Soon everyone burst into laughter. No one saw it, but when Lin Wei saw this scene, his brows furrowed even tighter. Strangely, this scene overlapped with what that woman had done in his memory. "Instructor Jamil, your subordinate wanted to offend me and even got this woman to drug me, but unfortunately, I'll return her to you." Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and walked out of the darkness. In front of everyone, she spoke rudely to Jamil. Just as everyone was laughing and Buddy was so mad that he wanted to kill Yun Jian, even 211 felt the same way. Lin Wei's voice rang out. Hearing Lin Wei's voice, Yun Jian wasn't surprised. Her eyes flashed and curved slightly. "Master Lin Wei, you." Jamil looked at Lin Wei in confusion. Everyone was stunned for a moment. Lin Wei looked at Yun Jian as if he wanted an answer. In front of everyone who was so confused that their breathing slowed, he spoke again. This time it wasn't a question but an affirmation. Chapter 1882. Your SS was as plain as "Have you eaten today?" Everyone's first reaction was not to wonder who SS was. Instead, Lin Wei was known for being a man of few words. Even if something big happened, he would not bother to repeat the same thing twice. Of course, Yi Ling was an exception. Yun Jian, on the other hand, was just a student in a hunting school. Everyone knew that once a student entered a hunting school, they would have to start all over again no matter how good their past achievements were or how strong their abilities were. For Lin Wei to ask Yun Jian the same thing twice, one could imagine that even if Lin Wei was expressionless, he must have 1,000 questions in his mind. "Master Lin Wei, you said she's SS. Why does this title sound so familiar?" Jamil stroked his chin and began to think. Slaying God was the one who was known worldwide, and SS was just a nickname given to slaying God by some people. If one was an international racer, the title SS would be known worldwide. However, as a Secret Service assassin, there were only a handful of people who could call Yun Jian SS. Of course, many people in the underworld knew the meaning of SS and the meaning of SS being slaying God. However, it was obvious that the people here did not know the direct relationship between SS and slaying God. Yun Jian was not surprised that Lin Wei could recognize her. She merely narrowed her eyes. "Master Jamil. Don't care about SS, please save me first." "Save me?" Barty, who was tied to a tree with a parachute together with 211, dared not move as he was afraid that the razor blades would stab him, begged Jamil for help. "What is it?" At this moment, no one present knew who he was. Jamil was about to recall it, but after hearing Buddy's words, he immediately forgot about it. "Hurry up and put him down." Jamil looked at Barty with disdain and ordered another subordinate beside him. Jamil's subordinate obeyed and quickly put Barty and 211 down. Lin Wei frowned when he saw that Yun Jian did not reply to him. Lin Wei was not stupid. Even if Yun Jian did not say anything, he already knew Yun Jian's identity. He really didn't expect that after going around in circles, the subordinate he was most proud of in the past would actually become his young madam. The corner of Lin Wei's mouth twitched. "All right, since we've found him, let's all go back. We'll continue training tonight." Jamil waved his hand. However, just as Jamil finished speaking, Yun Jian's words rang out. Her words resounded throughout the entire place. "Chief Instructor, your people are delusional enough to offend me. Are you going to let it go just like that?" After Yun Jian finished speaking, everyone present was shocked, especially my Dan, who had wanted to make a move on Yun Jian from the very beginning. All the surrounding students were stunned. What was this place? This was a hunting school. No matter how much Jamil disliked Buddy, he was still Jamil's subordinate. And Yun Jian actually dared to publicly ask Jamil to punish Buddy? Was she joking? Did he want to die? "Are you ordering me around?" Jamil suddenly stopped smiling. He cast a sidelong glance at Yun Jian. The sinister look on his face made everyone present slightly fearful. "Don't you know that the people who dared to order me around have already gone to see the King of Hell?" Jamil's sinister face instantly changed. He suddenly glared at Yun Jian. His voice unconsciously rose as he said something that made everyone's hearts tighten. Everyone's hearts tightened. They were clearly shocked by Jamil's sudden change in tone. Is that so? What a coincidence. The people who wanted to offend me have already. Yun Jian looked into Jamil's eyes. She spoke in front of everyone without the slightest bit of fear. Yun Jian suddenly paused. She cast a sidelong glance at Buddy. However, under everyone's shocked gazes, Yun Jian flipped her right hand. A butterfly knife suddenly appeared. The butterfly knife twirled between her fingers and suddenly flew toward Buddy. When the naked Buddy saw this, he was so frightened that he threw himself to the side. However, this butterfly knife seemed to have known where he was going to dodge. It actually sliced through Buddy's throat at a frightening speed, killing him on the spot. The butterfly knife flew past Buddy's throat, pierced a tree and bounced back. In front of all the students, including 211 and the group of women who were in cahoots with 211, Yun Jian easily caught it in her hand again. This process happened in 2 seconds. When Lin Wei saw this, his eyes flashed. This move, however, in front of everyone, Yun Jian's lips curled up slightly. Everyone was terrified. They couldn't believe that she had the ability and speed to kill Buddy with a butterfly knife in just 2 seconds. At this moment, Yun Jian followed up with 2 terrifying words. When the surrounding men heard the screams of the women in 211, they couldn't help but frown, but they didn't say anything. Shut up. Just as the screams of the women from 211 rang out, a soft shout suddenly rang out. These 2 words were filled with decisiveness, causing the women from 211 to shut their mouths in fright. They saw the owner of the voice holding the butterfly knife that was not stained by Buddy's blood. She stood there and turned her sharp eyes to 211. The moment Yun Jian spoke, 211's body trembled. His body unconsciously trembled twice and he obediently shut up. At this moment, Lin Wei's deep eyes flashed fiercely. He looked at Yun Jian and spoke again in front of everyone. This time, what came out of Lin Wei's mouth was not a question, but a confirmation of a person's identity. After speaking, Lin Wei's eyes were as sharp as swords. He turned his head to look at Yun Jian. In front of the group of people who were attracted by the word SS again, he spoke to Yun Jian and said the longest sentence Lin Wei had ever said. Chapter 1884. As Lin Wei's voice fell, everyone's eyes widened in disbelief. Lin Wei, he actually said such a long sentence. One must know that Lin Wei, one of the 4 leaders of the Inhun organization, would never speak more than 3 sentences. Except when facing the leader of the Inhun organization. Reticent, this title was not for nothing. Lin Wei's reticence had reached a whole new level. Sometimes, when he did not want to speak, he would just ignore people. This kind of thing was very common. But just now, Lin Wei actually said such a long sentence to Yun Jian. This made everyone present feel incredulous. As for what Lin Wei said, no one present understood. It was because Lin Wei had spoken to Yun Jian in Russian. The only thing that made everyone present understand was that Lin Wei's words were very long. Therefore, everyone present took a deep breath. In the end, when they finally reacted, Jamil looked at Lin Wei and said respectfully and carefully to Lin Wei, "Sir Lin Wei, you spoke to this little girl in a foreign language, can she understand?" No one present could understand Russian. Including Jamil. That was why Jamil asked. Naturally, she could understand because most of Yun Jian's foreign language was learned in the Inhun organization's assassin training camp. And Lin Wei, without a doubt, was the one who taught her. Yun Jian was trained by Lin Wei. But Lin Wei did not say a word of this to Jamil. Seeing this, Jamil only twitched the corner of his mouth and did not dare to ask any more. Under the gaze of Mai Dan, Chen Yang, Ding Jianlin and everyone else present, Yun Jian smiled and replied to Lin Wei in fluent Celtic, which was also words that no one present could understand. "This is what you taught me back then." Were these 2 addicted to speaking in foreign languages? Lin Wei spoke to Yun Jian in Russian, but Yun Jian spoke to Lin Wei in Celtic. Obviously, Yun Jian could understand Lin Wei's words, and Lin Wei could also understand Yun Jian's reply. But everyone present could only hear that Lin Wei's first sentence and Yun Jian's second sentence were different. In just a few sentences, the 2 of them had already spoken 2 different languages? Everyone present was shocked. Especially Yun Jian, she was so young but had such amazing skills. What was even more frightening was that she could speak so many foreign languages. "It is my honor to be able to teach young madam." Suddenly, Lin Wei bowed to Yun Jian respectfully in front of everyone's gawking eyes. This time he spoke in Polish. The people around them were shocked by Lin Wei's sudden bow to Yun Jian. Lin Wei, one of the 4 leaders of Inhun group, was bowing to Yun Jian in front of everyone? Did this mean? Yun Jian merely smirked and did not say anything else. However, the group of people around him was in a state of shock. The only person who had been spying on her was Buddy. Today Yiling stayed in Lin Wei's room and waited for him to come back. She wanted to clarify things with Lin Wei. Buddy was already dead, so she didn't have to be afraid anymore. So, everything that had happened before could be forgotten. With a creak, the door opened, and Lin Wei's handsome face was the first to appear. Yiling stood up from the bed, but she put her hands behind her back helplessly. Her beautiful sky-blue eyes stared at Lin Wei without blinking. Being stared back at by Lin Wei, Yiling blinked her eyes guiltily. Her long and narrow eyelashes fluttered slightly. Looking at her, she was extremely cute. Oh, can I go back and stay with Yun Jian? Seeing Lin Wei stare at her, Yiling felt a chill run down her spine. She didn't dare to mention what she had already thought of to say to Lin Wei. She suddenly opened her mouth helplessly. Forget it. She would go back to the female dormitory first. When Lin Wei came looking for her again, she would explain everything and make everything clear at once. Also, he had to apologize to him properly for using him. Chapter 1886. Lin Wei's words never left any room for rejection. Yiling blinked her eyes. Suddenly, tears flashed in her sky-blue eyes. What's wrong? Seeing a trace of tears suddenly flash across Yiling's eyes, even a person as calm as Lin Wei couldn't help but feel a little helpless. It was just that Lin Wei didn't show his helplessness. I miss home. All of you are forcing me. I want to go home. I haven't been home for 10 years. Other than my father and mother, no one is really good to me. I don't even have the right to choose here. Yiling's sky-blue eyes suddenly flickered up and down. She blinked. She didn't know why, but she felt a lump in her throat and wanted to cry. Yiling was 19 years old this year, 6 years younger than Lin Wei. Lin Wei was 25 years old this year. Yiling was spoiled since she was young, so she developed a princess temper that wasn't easy to coax. She would argue with her parents if she didn't like it. She would act like her parents were harming her. It could be considered a very vile type. Yiling was only 9 years old back then. However, she was spoiled since she was young. The 9-year-old Yiling was even more exaggerated than those teenage boys and girls in their rebellious period. It was probably because people lived in different environments that some of their personalities would change. The young Yiling had been spoiled since she was young, so her rebellious phase was obviously much earlier than her peers. However, when she was 9 years old, Yiling ran away from home after arguing with her parents. She was brought to the hunting school and underwent 10 years of inhumane training. In these 10 years, Yiling hid in her bed and cried. She also thought about suicide. However, she survived. At this time, she finally understood how good her parents were. If you stayed at home and argued with your parents every day, you might even have the thought of never seeing your parents again for the rest of your life. Therefore, many students wanted to choose a place as far away from home as possible when they were choosing a university. That way they would never see their parents again. However, when a person left their parents to live outside and saw the other side of society, they would crazily think of their parents. A university student, no matter how bad they were, would still go home and see their parents. But Yiling was different. After being brought to the hunting school, Yiling dreamed countless times about the parents she hated the most when she was young. They were the parents she wanted to see the most after experiencing the heartlessness of others in the hunting school. But even such a slim hope was too extravagant. All these years, Yiling had suppressed her immense pain in the bottom of her heart and displayed her most tenacious side in front of everyone. Because she believed that as long as she survived, she would be able to see her parents again. He couldn't die. He absolutely could not die. He absolutely could not give in. It was with this hope that Yiling managed to survive. Those who had never experienced this feeling would never understand that when faced with the cruelty of the world and the true disappointment of others, the easiest thing to think of was still the parents that you hated the most and were the most impatient to nag in your ears every day. Yiling didn't know what was wrong with her today. She actually squatted down and hugged herself while crying. She couldn't help but vent her emotions in front of Lin Wei. Her tears were like water flowing out of a faucet, flowing non-stop. Lin Wei's heart couldn't help but tighten when he saw this. Reaching out, Lin Wei grabbed Yiling's wrist and pulled her up from the floor into his warm embrace. I won't force you anymore. I'll make you bear children for me willingly. Lin Wei would never change the person he had set his mind on. In the female dormitory, Yun Jian was lying on the bed when the door was knocked lightly with a stone. Yun Jian opened the door and walked out to see Phantom Shadow waving at her from a grove not far away from the dormitory. Ce had been writing her a letter almost every day recently and the content was unbearable. Yun Jian walked toward the grove. Taking the envelope from Phantom Shadow as usual, Yun Jian opened it and saw the familiar handwriting. Xiao Jian, I miss you so much. I really want you to be bedridden for 365 days. Yun Jian blushed at the sight. Just as Yun Jian was about to turn back to the dormitory, a familiar fresh scent came from behind Yun Jian as someone hugged her from behind. He hugged Yun Jian from behind and leaned down to her ear, smelling the scent that he was so familiar with and loved so much. He was instantly mesmerized. Chapter 1888. The more she spoke, the more she felt that she was powerful. At night, the women in the dormitory next door were already lying in bed, and 211 was a snobbish woman to begin with. The status of 211's women in the hunting school was no different from prostitutes. Unlike Yi Ling, 211's women in the hunting school could be trampled on by any man. Perhaps other women felt that they had fallen and could just accept it with open thighs. But 211 was different. 211 would learn to climb up. She would climb up the social ladder and cling to people with higher status. Just like Buddy from before, he was someone 211 wanted to cling to. 211 knew how to use her body to seek benefits or to obtain protection. Tonight, 211 had just climbed to a new height. After finishing a few rounds of unspeakable things with that man, she rushed back late at night and saw Yun Jian walking into her dormitory with a man. Now that Yi Ling was taken away by Master Lin Wei, this was something everyone knew. This meant that Yun Jian was the only one in the dormitory where Yi Ling used to live. When 211 saw Yun Jian walk into her dormitory with a man, she felt a burst of excitement. The hunting school system was very strict. Students were absolutely not allowed to have an affair with anyone. So when she saw that a man actually followed Yun Jian into Yun Jian's dormitory, 211 immediately ran to find Jamil, Lin Wei and everyone else to come over. Halfway through, she also alarmed the people who were this year's hunting school students like Yun Jian. After being called over by 211's exaggerated words, everyone followed. 211's words were very loud. At this moment, standing in the female dormitory, she attracted the women in the other dormitories. At this time, the women were all waiting to see Yun Jian make a fool of herself. Hearing 211's words, Lin Wei's eyes flashed slightly. Before Jamil could speak, Lin Wei said, "She won't steal a man. Except for the young master. Master Lin Wei, you know her. If you want to side with her, then I have nothing to say. But is she treating our hunting school's rules like child's play?" NB211 stood beside Jamil and used his body to touch Jamil while saying these words at the same time. Jamil was not someone who could be seduced by beauty. He pushed 211 away and was about to speak when the door to Yun Jian's dormitory opened. Yun Jian appeared in front of everyone. Not long after her shower, she put on a tight-fitting outfit with a jacket on the outside and a pair of black, tight-fitting trousers that accentuated her perfect figure to the fullest. At this time, Yun Jian gave people a kind of unusual beauty. A large group of men present were dumbfounded. They couldn't help but hold their breaths. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Yun Jian was slightly jealous when she looked at him and sneered. Yes, there is a man. She actually admitted it. 211's eyes bulged. Gun. Don't kill me. When 211 saw that Lin Wei had pointed the gun at her, she shuddered in fear and turned to run. 211 did not expect that she had only wanted to embarrass Yun Jian today so that she would be rewarded for reporting the incident. However, she had never thought that she would actually bring about a fatal disaster. However, before 211 could run out, Lin Wei's gun hit 211's heart with a bang, not missing by a hair's breadth. The surrounding people were so shocked that they sucked in a deep breath. The group of women who were with 211 saw 211's eyes widen and fell to the ground with his eyes wide open. They were so scared that they didn't dare to move. Dead. 211 dead. Compared to the people around him, Jamil's thoughts were much more meticulous. He had already guessed half of Si Yi's identity. Just as Jamil was unable to obtain a definite answer, Lin Wei suddenly turned to look at Jamil. He gave Jamil and the people around him a solemn warning. Chapter 1890. On the ground, 211's corpse reminded everyone that she had paid the price of her life for provoking this handsome man. The people around them didn't think much of it, but Jamil's eyes were wide open. Wasn't Lin Wei's words hinting to him indirectly? This handsome man whom Lin Wei respectfully addressed as young master was the leader of an Hun. Oh my god, the leader of an Hun. He actually had an affair with his cohort student. In addition, Lin Wei had warned Jamil that if he provoked Yun Jian, an Hun would definitely not stand by and watch. Jamil completely understood why Lin Wei had used such a solemn tone to warn him. That was because Yun Jian was an Hun's leader's woman. This truth was too scary, so scary that after knowing the truth, Jamil didn't even dare to reveal a single word of it to anyone present. Jamil believed that if the identity of an Hun's leader was revealed, he would definitely die a horrible death. This was a secret that was completely unspeakable. Jamil, who knew the truth, was so scared that his face turned pale. At this moment, even if Lin Wei stood up and said that Ce wasn't an Hun's leader, Jamil wouldn't believe it. It wasn't just because of the flaw that was revealed earlier. This time Lin Wei's words were broken by 3 sentences again. Other than Yun Jian, Lin Wei would only speak more than 3 sentences in front of one person. That person was an Hun's leader. Thinking about it this way, it wasn't so unbelievable that Lin Wei had spoken more than 3 words in front of Yun Jian. After all, Yun Jian was an Hun's leader's woman. Hurry up and clean up this trash. Jamil didn't dare to say anything else. He pointed at 211's corpse and shouted at his subordinate beside him. This subordinate quickly found someone to take care of this matter. I don't know if someone from Hun is here. I'm sorry for offending you just now. May I invite you to my place? Jamil walked over and looked at Ce respectfully. Because he was a little scared, he stuttered a little. All the students around, including the group of women who were with 211 and Gemel's subordinates, didn't have Gemel's brain. Therefore, they only thought that Ce was someone from Lin Wei or someone with a higher status in an Hun organization that the secular world didn't know about. Who would have guessed that Ce was the leader of an Hun? Jamil was probably the only one who could guess this. Jamil, who knew the truth, was really scared to death. His body was trembling, and the strong aura he had when he first appeared was completely dispersed in front of Ce. The way Jamil invited Ce was as if he was afraid that Ce would reject him. However, just when Jamil thought that Ce would not agree, Ce suddenly grabbed Yun Jian's small hand and finally turned her gaze to Jamil. That pair of sharp and deep black eyes stared at Jamil, causing him to feel a wave of panic. The young master has agreed. Chapter 1891. No one dared to say anything when Jamil asked Ce to leave. Yun Jian did not tag along either. It was Ce who did not want Yun Jian to tag along. Yun Jian could tell that Ce's gaze when he turned to look at her had a hint of lust. It was like he was plotting something in secret. Before he left, Ce bent down and whispered something that only the 2 of them could hear. Xiao Jian, wait for me tonight. Hearing Ce's words, Yun Jian was reminded of certain embarrassing scenes. Blushing, Yun Jian pushed Ce, who was leaning against her, away. It was only then that Ce flashed a handsome smile and left with Jamil. After being asked to leave by Jamil, Ce came back around 10 o'clock. However, Yun Jian did not let him have any meat tonight. Ce was very uncomfortable about it, but he did not force Yun Jian at all. It was just that the soundproofing here was terrible, so bad that, even if one went to the washroom, the people in the dormitory next door could hear them doing so. This was similar to the time when he went to his grandpa's house in the countryside with Chen Sini. Chen Sini's cousin could be heard farting in the room next door. It was mysteriously similar. Moreover, there were many women in the room next door. If Ce did something weird to her, how could he not be noticed? Hence, Ce could only hold back his desire. In fact, he wished that everyone knew that his Xiao Jian was only his. The next morning, when the sun was still up, Yun Jian and the others did not even have time to do their morning exercises before Jamil called them to a corner to begin the next round of training. All of you are special forces from all over the world. You must master survival skills in the wild, so from today onwards, all of you will undergo a month-long wilderness survival training. In this month, all of you must use your own hands to search for food. Before entering the forest, I'll give each of you a dagger. Other than that, no one is allowed to bring anything else. My request is that even if you die in the forest, you're not allowed to retreat. I won't give you any tools to call for help. It will only increase the difficulty of your survival in the wild. Now let's go. Jamil said in a simple and clear manner. Survival in the wild was an essential skill for the group of people present. If it was the previous survival training that Yun Jian encountered, they would definitely be given a rescue tool or something to give up halfway before entering the forest. Here, however, Jamil would not give them the chance to give up. If you can't make it, you have to die. This kind of training could increase a person's fighting spirit by 100-fold. There was no room for retreat, so they could only move forward. What Yun Jian could not understand was why Ce was with her. Moreover, he was still holding her hand as they walked in this place where wild beasts roamed freely as if they were admiring the scenery. Walala, not long after they entered the forest, it started raining. Without a word, Si took off his jacket and draped it over her head to shield her from the rain before holding her hand to look for a shelter nearby. There's a cave over there. Xiao Jin, let's go hide from the rain, Si said as he tugged Yun Jian's hand and led her to a large cave. The cave was rather spacious and the entrance was covered by vines. Si was skilled in survival in the wild. There was no need for Yun Jian to do anything. Before long, Si had already picked up some firewood and started a fire. Si's jacket was wet but Yun Jian was unscathed because she had the jacket draped over her. Si, on the other hand, was drenched from the rain earlier. Yun Jian could tell that the clothes and jacket he was wearing were all bought by her. Their colors had already faded. With a squint, Yun Jian suddenly leaned her head on Si's shoulder. She thought that she was blessed. Xiao Jian. Not long after Yun Jian rested her head on Si's shoulder, she heard his heavy breathing. In the next second, Yun Jian felt the world spin around her. He flipped over and pinned her beneath him, using the jacket that was not too wet to cushion her. Yun Jian realized what he was going to do right away. Don't. Not here. Yun Jian blushed when he was about to rip her clothes off. Xiao Jian, you're mine. Si whispered in Yun Jian's ear. He directly pressed her two eyesore hands above her head. Chapter 1892. Over there. There's a cave over there. Let's go in and hide. It's raining so heavily. Oh my God, it's raining just like that. It's almost winter, not summer. The weather is so unpredictable. Hurry, hurry. Hide in the cave. My clothes are about to get wet. There were sounds of people and hurried footsteps in the forest. Yun Jian, who was pressed under Si's body, blinked. At this moment, both she and Si were still disheveled. But at this moment, someone came. At this moment, the sounds of people outside were already in front of the cave. Outside the cave. At the sight of this huge cave, a group of people hurriedly ran over from afar. Braving the rain, they used their own backpacks and coats to block the increasingly heavy rainwater and rushed to the front of the cave in a short while. These people were conversing in Chinese. This forest was located in the tropical rainforest of Venezuela. To be able to hear Chinese here was equivalent to meeting Z people. It was very rare. In addition, due to the altitude and water source, it was possible to have both a tropical rainforest and a wasteland in the same place. In other words, the world here looked like it was about to become a desert, but there were trees. However, the trees were very withered due to the lack of water. In such a place, even if Z people were to travel, they probably wouldn't choose the tropical rainforest of Venezuela. But it was in such a place that a group of Z people appeared here. This group of people complained as they walked to the entrance of the cave. When they reached the entrance, they were shocked and stunned. Among them, a strong male voice saw a slight flickering light in the cave and was surprised. There's firewood in this cave. Is there someone? As he said that, he led the group into the cave. Because there was firewood in the cave, they could only see the flickering light in the cave. Other than the surroundings of the firewood, everything in the cave was pitch black. But when this group of people walked into the cave, they saw that the firewood illuminated everything in the cave. Yun Jian had just tidied up her clothes when she saw this group of Z people entering the cave from the outside. This group of people saw the firewood before entering the cave and was prepared to see someone in the cave. But when they saw the people, they were still a little shocked. Yun Jian and Si didn't show any signs of shock. Si's face was full of displeasure. There's someone here. Hello. The leader of the group, a man who was almost 30 years old, saw Yun Jian and Si and said to Yun Jian and Si. Yun Jian and Si ignored him. Si was already lucky that she didn't kill anyone. The man did not feel awkward as he scratched his head and smiled at Yun Jian and Si. Sorry, we didn't know there were people here. It's raining outside, so we came in to take shelter. The man laughed and said, I see that the two of you are also from Z country, right? My name is Meng Zhang. They are my teammates. The man named Meng Zhang didn't realize that he had interrupted something good. He smiled at Yun Jian and Si in a friendly manner and introduced his 4 teammates. Then he looked at Yun Jian and Si and asked, By the way, are you two, like us? Are you here to investigate the strange incident that happened here? Yun Jian's eyes flashed when she heard Meng Zhang's words. She asked, What incident? Brother Meng, I think they just got lost in the forest. How could they be here to investigate that incident? Instead of wasting time talking to them, it's better to pack up and continue moving forward when the rain stops. A short man standing next to Meng Zhang said. Meng Zhang looked to be close to 30 years old. He had a crew cut and was straightforward. He had the demeanor of a big brother. The short man standing beside Meng Zhang had an enigmatic expression. He glared at Yun Jian and Si as though Yun Jian and Si were his enemies. The short man didn't look good. His nose was a little crooked, his face was thin and his cheeks were sunken. This short man was called Wu Tianlin. Meng Zhang had 4 teammates. There were 5 of them in total. After Wu Tianlin spoke rudely, Meng Zhang reprimanded him. Then he apologized to Yun Jian and Si. Sorry, he's just like that. He has a sharp tongue but he doesn't have a bad heart. The 5 of us are part of a small investigation team. You might not know, but not long ago we heard that someone was suddenly swept into another world. That world is completely different from here. There are immortal cultivators there. The strong ones can even fly. Horses have wings and there are all kinds of magical beasts. Chapter 1893. Cough, but you guys don't seem to know about this? If you guys didn't know about this, you'd think I'm joking, right? But we believe that there really is another world, so we came here to investigate. Meng Zhang scratched his head as he spoke. Indeed, this was a very far-fetched thing to say. Another world, and there were cultivators in that world. Powerful cultivators could even fly. Horses had wings, and that was the legendary Pegasus. There were also all kinds of magical beasts. That was simply a world that the author of the novel had randomly made up. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, such a place wouldn't exist at all. I feel like I'm getting more and more ridiculous. Seeing that Yun Jian and Si didn't move, Meng Zhang scratched his head, obviously thinking that Yun Jian and Si didn't believe what he said. That's right. How could an ordinary person believe such nonsense when they heard it was true? Wasn't this something that only existed in mythical television dramas? Meng Zhang felt that since Yun Jian and Si didn't come here for the same reason as them, which was to investigate that bizarre matter as normal people, they definitely wouldn't believe it. However, just when Meng Zhang thought that Yun Jian and Si would think that he was talking nonsense, Yun Jian, who was standing in front of him, frowned. Si, on the other hand, didn't look surprised at all, as if everything was within his expectations. Meng Zhang was shocked. Yun Jian curled her lips and said, I believe you, continue. Meng Zhang hadn't seen someone like Yun Jian in a long time. She actually believed such a bizarre thing? Therefore Meng Zhang told them everything. That was half a month ago. I heard that someone in this forest was suddenly swept into another world. After that person woke up, the world had changed and he was surrounded by things that he had never heard of before. What kind of cultivators were that? Powerful cultivators could even fly. Horses had wings and all kinds of magical beasts. Wait, it was so bizarre that it was unimaginable. However, that person didn't know how he entered that other world. He didn't even know how he came back. After this matter was exposed, many people chose not to believe it. Of course, there was also a portion of people who believed it, such as Meng Zhang and the others. After getting this news, Meng Zhang and the others rushed here, wanting to find out what was going on. Meng Zhang wasn't clear about other things. After hearing Meng Zhang's words, Yun Jian's deep eyes narrowed again. Was there an entrance to the Yulong continent or other continents in the forest where the hunting school was located? Did this have something to do with her teacher asking her to come to the hunting school? Moreover, it was the Lord God, who was the former CE, who forcefully tore the tunnel out of the ancient tomb and into the Yulong continent. In other words, no one in the Yulong continent, the other continents, or even the deity continent could do this. Then, who opened the entrance to the continent near the hunting school? Are you looking for the entrance to that world? Yun Jian suddenly turned to look at Meng Zhang and asked. Yes. Meng Zhang nodded. Then do you know where the entrance is? Yun Jian asked again. I have some clues, but I don't know the exact location. Meng Zhang replied. Are you guys thinking of going together? Brother Meng, you can't do that. Look at how skinny and weak they are. What if they drag us down? Yun Jian had just asked this question when Wu Tianlin, who had been silent all this while, suddenly spoke up in a serious tone. After saying this, Wu Tianlin glared at Yun Jian fiercely. Yeah, I think so too. A woman standing behind Meng Zhang spoke up at this time. This woman was also a member of Meng Zhang's scouting team. Her name was Wan Menglin. Wan Menglin looked mature and spoke steadily. Although she didn't despise Yun Jian and Ce, she agreed with what Wu Tianlin said. Even if we find a way to go to the other world with their skills, it's still a problem whether they can protect themselves. After all, we were trained in Taekwondo. Chapter 1894. After all, Yun Jian and Ce were still young. Yun Jian was still underage and Ce looked like she was in her early 20s. At this age, she should still be in high school or university, right? She should still be a student, right? Wan Menglin and Wu Tianlin were members of the scouting team, and Meng Zhang was obviously the leader of the 5. Don't blame Wan Menglin and Wu Tianlin for being selfish. That was human nature. Yun Jian's tone just now clearly indicated that she was interested in another world. Therefore, Wan Minglin and Wu Tianlin immediately assumed that Yun Jian wanted to join in the fun. After all, she was a young girl. She would definitely want to join in the fun after discovering something so interesting. I do want to go. After hearing Wu Tianlin and Wan Minglin's words, Yun Jian didn't get angry. Instead, she said it very calmly. Although Wu Tianlin and Wan Minglin's words sounded like they were attacking Yun Jian, it was human nature. That was how human nature was. Let's use a simple example. For example, when you were playing a game, you would hope that you would be matched with a strong opponent, not a weak chicken. If you were matched with a weak chicken, even if you didn't directly attack them, you would definitely be unhappy after being tricked. This was human nature. Wu Tianlin and Wan Minglin were people who spoke their minds. They were afraid that Yun Jian and Ce would shamelessly want to go with them and drag them down. Now, after hearing Yun Jian's words, Wu Tianlin and Wan Minglin were even more certain that Yun Jian wanted to shamelessly go with them. Therefore, Wu Tianlin and Wan Minglin's expressions became very ugly. Especially Wu Tianlin, who didn't have a filter and directly blurted out the harshest words. His words were directed at Yun Jian. "Little girl, take a good look at your own weight. You still want to drag us down?" Wu Tianlin raised his hand and walked up to Yun Jian in 2 steps. He clenched his hand into a fist, then raised it above Yun Jian's head and swung it twice. Wu Tianlin was about the same height as Yun Jian. Yun Jian was 165 meters tall. However, even if a man was the same height as a woman, he would still look much shorter than a woman. Standing in front of Yun Jian, Wu Tianlin felt as if he was shorter than Yun Jian. Wu Tianlin raised his hand to place his fist on top of Yun Jian's head, trying his best to raise it up. Before he could finish his words, Yun Jian's voice was heard. Wu Tianlin only felt a large bony palm grabbing his hand and squeezing it hard. Then a long slender leg came kicking at him. Wu Tianlin didn't even see who did it. He was kicked to the wall of the cave and then fell to the ground. This fall almost made Wu Tianlin vomit. Tianlin. Wan Minglin's pupils shrank when she saw this. She ran over to help Wu Tianlin up. Meng Zhang didn't look down on Yun Jian and Ce from the beginning. But after Wan Minglin said this, Yun Jian ignored her. Yun Jian just leaned her head on Ce's shoulder and leaned her full breasts against Ce's chest. She closed her eyes. Seeing Yun Jian like this, Wan Minglin clenched her fists. In the end, she couldn't say anything. She must be doing it on purpose. Ce enjoyed this feeling very much. It was soft. An hour later, the rain stopped. Yun Jian and Ce wouldn't stay here for long. The same went for Meng Zhang and the others. Yun Jian, Ce and Meng Zhang's group of 5 had just walked out. A few figures appeared on the right side of the forest. The moment Yun Jian saw them, her eyes narrowed slightly. The leader was actually Mai Dan, who had always been at odds with her. He had threatened her earlier that if she dared to come to the hunting school, he would kill her. Mai Dan walked over step by step. He looked at Yun Jian ferociously. Suddenly he revealed a strange smile in front of everyone. Then he looked at Yun Jian and said, 16, you're really here. Ah, I've said it before. If you dare to enter the hunting school, I'll make sure you won't be able to walk out of here. Today I'll make it happen. Looking at Mai Dan's expression, it seemed like he had something to use against Yun Jian. Hearing Mai Dan's words, Meng Zhang, Wu Tianlin, Wan Minglin and the others' pupils shrank. They exclaimed in confusion, hunting school? 16. This is... Mai Dan thought that Meng Zhang, Wan Minglin and the others were Yun Jian's friends. Hence, he sneered and exaggerated the truth in front of Meng Zhang and the others. Chapter 1896. As Mai Dan spoke, she smiled as she took out a folding scimitar from her pocket. She held the folding scimitar in her hand and waved it lightly, then pointed the blade at Yun Jian. Mai Dan's actions were to intimidate Meng Zhang, Wu Tianlin and Wan Minglin. It wasn't a coincidence that Mai Dan was able to find this place. From the moment Yun Jian and Ce entered the forest, Mai Dan had already bribed the person in charge of the hunting school's wilderness survival mission to obtain the location of Yun Jian and Ce when they were brought into the forest. If a normal person wanted to move from one location to another, it would definitely take some time to walk. When they entered the forest, it happened to be raining, and there was only one cave nearby that could shelter them from the rain. Thus, Mai Dan easily found Yun Jian and Ce. Seeing Yun Jian standing with Meng Zhang and the others, she naturally thought that they were her friends. Thus, Mai Dan didn't directly make a move. Instead, she used threatening words to make Yun Jian lose Wan Minglin and the others as friends. Reality proved that Mai Dan's threat was very successful. After hearing Mai Dan's words, Meng Zhang and the others did indeed show a frightened expression. Especially Wu Tianlin and Wan Minglin, who were the most unfriendly towards Yun Jian. Wu Tianlin's face stiffened. He originally thought that Yun Jian was just an ordinary girl, and wanted to use this to persuade Yun Jian not to follow them so as to not be a burden. Wan Minglin, who wanted to let Ce go with them, had an expression that couldn't be described as frightened. Hunting school, student? She. This time the one who spoke wasn't Meng Zhang or Wu Tianlin, but Wan Minglin. Wan Minglin stared at my Dan with her eyes wide open, then looked at Yun Jian and then at my Dan. Her face was full of disbelief. Wasn't she supposed to be a weak and powerless young girl? How could she be a student of the International Hunting School? Hunting school. Basically, anyone who knew about international affairs would know what kind of school it was. Wan Minglin and the other four were all members of the scouting team, so they naturally knew about this. The Hunter Academy was a world-renowned training center for special forces. Every single one of the special forces soldiers who could enter the hunting school had been through hundreds of battles, had outstanding military achievements, and were the strongest among the people around them. That kind of person was a sacred and awe-inspiring expert. What Taekwondo expert? If they were to fight against them, they wouldn't even be able to touch the corner of their clothes. The gap between them was huge. Moreover, Wan Minglin and the others were not Taekwondo experts. They only knew a little Taekwondo. As for Yun Jian, she was also one of the students of the hunting school? Tsk, you don't believe me? Chapter 1897. After the man finished speaking, Meng Zhang, Wan Minglin, and the rest were even more frightened. If the fact that Yun Jian was a student of the hunting school was unbelievable to Wan Minglin and the rest, then the name of the In-Hun organization brought them endless fear. Wan Minglin and the rest were so shocked that they couldn't even speak. My Dan glanced at the man as if she was praising him. Seeing this, the man looked pleased with himself for being able to please my Dan. Just when my Dan and the man thought that they had successfully tricked Yun Jian's friend, Yun Jian wore a nonchalant smile and said softly, "That's right. Childish, ignorant." After speaking, Yun Jian grabbed Ce's hand with her small hand and walked towards the forest at the side. When they left, Yun Jian's cold gaze didn't even look at Wan Minglin and the rest. Even a fool would be able to see it. Yun Jian and Wan Minglin were definitely not friends. Seeing this scene, my Dan instantly felt that he was extremely stupid. Just when my Dan was about to shout and chase after Yun Jian with the dagger in his hand, bang bang bang. 3 gunshots rang out. 3 bullets flew past my Dan's head, left arm and right arm without missing a single inch. After the bullet flew past, it nailed into the tree behind my Dan and went deep into the wood. Seeing this scene, Wan Minglin, Wu Tianlin, and the rest were so scared that they almost knelt on the ground and trembled. They didn't know when Ce had taken out his gun and fired 3 shots at my Dan. At that moment, Ce had already put his gun away. He circled Yun Jian and looked at my Dan and the rest. He warned them seriously, "Don't let me see you again. Otherwise, as students of the hunting school, I will kill you all without hesitation." After speaking, he dragged Yun Jian and left. My Dan was so frightened by Ce's words that his body trembled slightly. He didn't know why, but he didn't dare to chase after her with his dagger in hand. Even though Wan Minglin had learned of Yun Jian's terrifying identity from my Dan, she still stared blankly at Ce's silhouette, wanting to chase after her. "Hey, wait!" However, before Wan Minglin could catch up to them, Yun Jian and Ce's figures had already disappeared. From Meng Zhang, Yun Jian learned the approximate location of the world entrance that sucked people into it. As for that world, was it the Yulong continent or some other unknown world? Yun Jian had no idea, but she had to find out. Thus, Yun Jian and Ce headed in the general direction that Meng Zhang had given them. At this moment, in the headquarters of an Hun organization. The last time Si Luo told Luo Berry those secrets, he thought that she was pregnant and didn't dare to return to Shui Ying's place. He insisted on staying with Luo Berry. After that, Shui Ying angrily called for Mo Sen to bring Si Luo back from Luo Berry's place. Chapter 1898. Mo Sen was considered a gentleman. If it were Adam or Shui Ying, one would force himself on her, while the other would force a kiss on her. They would not take the initiative. Although Mo Sen's tone was very firm, he did not force himself on her, nor did he force a kiss on Luo Berry. He only used very confident words to say this. The 4 leaders of the In-Hun organization had one thing in common. They all had a certain level of attachment to the things they liked. Or to put it another way, as long as it was something they liked, regardless of whether you agreed or not, you had to agree. The reason why this was so similar was because the 4 leaders of the In-Hun organization were all personally trained by Ce. When they were very young, Ce had told them something. He said, "If you want something in this world, take it with your own strength. If you can't take it, think of a way to make it yours forever." When a person was a child, it was the easiest time to implant ideas. For example, as the saying goes, people are born with good natures. The reason why they become bad later is because of the influence of the environment and various other factors. When a person is born, they are still young. Generally, children at this age are the easiest time to be led astray. NCE's words had penetrated deep into the hearts of Adam, Mo Sen, Shuang and Lin Wei. Therefore, the four of them had such a similar point in common. At this moment, after hearing Mo Sen's words, Luo Berry was so shocked that she stood rooted to the ground. After being stunned for a few seconds, Luo Berry was about to speak, but she was interrupted by Mo Senator. He grabbed her wrist and pulled Luo Berry into his arms. Then he did not allow Luo Berry to refuse. "You're the one who provoked me. I won't accept any rejection." Mo Sun was afraid that Luo Berry would refuse, so he quickly spoke first. Luo Berry had been interested in Mo Sun for a long time. Otherwise, she would not blush every time she saw him. At this moment, although Luo Berry was shy and trembling, she still reached out and hugged him back. Then, her face blushed and she said as usual, "I thought you would hate me and not like me." Bathed in the sunlight, Mo Sen did not wait for Luo Berry to finish her sentence. He leaned over and grabbed that little mouth of hers that was talking nonsense. The tropical rainforest of Venezuela. Yun Jian and Ce passed through a large forest and headed towards the place Meng Zhang had mentioned. Since Meng Zhang and company found this place, it indicated that the destination was not far away. Yun Jian and Ce walked for an hour before they arrived at the place Meng Zhang had mentioned. At that time, there were suddenly many temporary houses built with simple materials in the originally uninhabited place. There were people all around the house, making it feel like a paradise. However, this was not a paradise. Everyone here, without exception, had come for the other world in the legends. "Oh ho, two more little friends are here. My two little friends, this way please." Just as Yun Jian and Ce were blinking at this scene, a foreign man in his 50s or 60s walked over excitedly and waved at Yun Jian and Ce. Seeing the friendly expression on the old man's face and the fact that Yun Jian and Ce did not know the exact situation, they followed the old man. As they walked, the old man introduced himself. "My name is John. You two can call me Old Monster John. This is the nickname that everyone gave me." As he spoke, the white-haired but energetic old man who called himself John turned to look at Yun Jian and Ce, asking with a smile, "What's the matter?" Chapter 1899. Central Continent? This was the second time Yun Jian had heard of this name. Yun Jian could not help but frown. The last time she heard of this name was from Huyen Ba, the head of the Huyen family, who used to be the #1 family in the Yulong continent. Huyen Ba had said something substantial back then. Back then, Huyen Ba had gone to the central continent and overheard a conversation between two black-robed men. The two black-robed men said that when the sorcerer god fell, the Lord God had used all his spiritual power to go against the heavenly Tao and saved him. They also said that the Lord God and the sorcerer god had gone to a place called Earth, and they had even sent people to assassinate them. They also said that if Yun Jian and Si wanted to recover their memories as the sorcerer god and the Lord God, they had to inject powerful spiritual power into the sandalwood box. Later on, when they were absorbing the sandalwood box's memories, someone had interrupted them. Yun Jian believed that all of this was done by the mysterious person. The most important thing now was that since the black-robed men had appeared in the central continent, was the mysterious person from the central continent as well. Moreover, her teacher had asked her to come to the hunter school to find him. Did this mean that her teacher was also from the central continent? Yun Jian's eyes flashed. Her intuition told her that she had to go to the central continent. Little friend? Little friend? Little friend? Hardadef waved his hand in front of Yun Jian's eyes a few times before he managed to get Yun Jian's attention. Yun Jian had not recovered from the shock. She only raised her eyes slightly to look at Hardadef. Aha, from the looks of it, the two of you probably don't know the details. Have you heard of someone who was accidentally sucked into another world and then mysteriously returned here? Hardadef was the first to speak. Yun Jian nodded. I've heard of it. Si stood beside Yun Jian. His handsome face paired with his cold expression made it seem as if all of this had nothing to do with him. He only had eyes for her. The person who was mysteriously sucked into another world was my grandson Joseph. The world he was sucked into was a place called the Central Continent. This was what the people in that world told him. John explained again as he led Yun Jian and Ce to a row of simple houses. My grandson plans to bring everyone to explore that world. However, we don't know how we're going to go there yet. Let me introduce you to my grandson Joseph. He's a friendly person. Hardadef said as he led Yun Jian and Ce to a house. There were 4 or 5 people sitting around the table in the house. One of them was a man who was about 25 years old. He had beautiful golden curly hair. This man was John's grandson, and also the one who was unintentionally dragged into the central continent. Chapter 1900. Yun Jian and Joseph were sitting not far away just now, so Ce had been listening and did not think anything was amiss. When he saw Joseph flashing a bashful smile at Yun Jian, Ce was enraged as he pulled Yun Jian's hand and walked out. How dare this man named Joseph smile at his Xiao Jian like that? Before Ce could pull Yun Jian out of the room, however, Joseph had a sense of justice. Joseph, who had a sense of justice, spoke up to stop them when he saw Ce tugging Yun Jian's hand and walking out. Hey, bro. You're going to break her delicate hand if you hold her hand like that. Ce was not that enraged initially, but when he heard Joseph's words, his piercing gaze was like a murderous sword that was directed at Joseph. Before Joseph realized what he said was inappropriate, he stood up when he saw Ce refusing to let go. His handsome face in the eyes of foreigners was instantly displeased. Hey bro, how can you treat a woman like this? Joseph had no idea who he had offended. As he spoke, he went over to pull Yun Jian away from Ce. Before Joseph's hand could touch Yun Jian, however, Ce had already pulled Yun Jian into his embrace and dug his hand into his trouser pocket. It was empty. Where was their marriage certificate? Yun Jian was exasperated. She had secretly hidden the marriage certificate that he had been keeping with him before this. Ce, who could not get his hands on the marriage certificate, had a glint in his eyes as he encircled Yun Jian in his arms and gave Joseph a sideways glance. Stay away from my woman. As he spoke, he grabbed Yun Jian's hand and walked out. Hey. I told you it's not good to treat a woman like this. What are you doing? Joseph was worried about Yun Jian, so he picked up his jacket and chased after them. When he reached the entrance, Yun Jian and Ce were gone. F***ck, that bro isn't bullying a woman, is he? He's not being violent, is he? Joseph hurried after them as he thought about it. Yun Jian blinked as Ce pulled her all the way to a cliff. She could feel that he was furious at the moment. However, he held her small hand with controlled strength and did not hurt her. Where are you taking me? Yun Jian blinked and asked. Ce did not say anything, pulling her hand all the way to a place surrounded by dense bushes with a cliff behind them. Just as they made their way into the dense bushes, Ce pinned Yun Jian against the edge of the cliff and bent down to kiss her with heavy breaths. By the time Yun Jian came back to her senses, he was already kissing her with a strong sense of jealousy. The cliff was surrounded by trees that were connected to the dense bushes. There was a huge rock above them. As long as one did not walk into the bushes, one would not be able to sense that there was someone here. At this moment, Ce pushed Yun Jian against the cliff. In order to prevent the small rocks from pressing down on her back, he placed his large palm on her back. Ce's kiss was ferocious and Yun Jian's back felt a lot of pressure, but her back was unscathed. Ce's palm that was pressed against Yun Jian's back was scratched by the pebbles, but he did not care. After the kiss, Yun Jian wrapped her hands around Ce's neck. She wanted to ask Ce what was wrong, but she felt Ce raise her two small hands above her head with his other large palm and withdraw his other hand from her back. Yun Jian could see that the back of Ce's hand that was pressed against her back was scratched by the rocks. It was even bleeding. "You're bleeding," Yun Jian said anxiously. Before Yun Jian could finish, however, Ce's bruised hand lifted her leg that was in the skirt, forming a 90-degree angle as he leaned forward. Chapter 1901. Reality proved that a man like Ce who had tasted meat couldn't help but be a vegetarian every day. Even if Yun Jian was stupid, she could tell that he was angry because Joseph was too close to her. She had to admit that she liked Ce's angry look. Yun Jian blinked slightly. Her legs were lifted and she suddenly wrapped her arms around his neck. It was a tacit consent for Ce to do something to her in the wilderness where there were only trees, bushes, and cliffs around them, but the place was well covered. Ce was also a normal man. Seeing his beloved woman hinting at him like this, he didn't hold back anymore and used his actions to prove his love for her. Hunting school. After sending Yun Jian and the other students into the forest, Lin Wei and Jamie returned to their residence. The students had to survive in the forest for a month. In this month, even if the students were attacked by wild beasts and accidentally died in the forest, it was their own fate. Everything depended on one's ability. Of course, this wasn't the main point for Lin Wei and Jamie. The main point was that Lin Wei and Jamie could be said to have a relaxing vacation for this month. Lin Wei didn't plan to stay in the hunting school for long. And Hun's assassin training camp still needed him. But for some reason he didn't want to return to Hun for this month. One had to know that among the 4 leaders of Hun, only Lin Wei was the most dedicated. It could be said that he had devoted his life to Hun. In the past, whenever Adam, Mo Sen and Shuang went out to play, Lin Wei would directly reject them and continue to train his assassin training camp. Lin Wei played a huge part in Hun's success today. Initially, Lin Wei had planned to return to Hun's assassin training camp for this month, but he didn't want to go back now. Returning to his simple bedroom in the hunting school, Yiling was sitting at the foot of the bed. Seeing him return, Yiling stood up fearfully. But she heard Lin Wei's words continue, "Pack up and leave with me." Yiling had stayed in the hunting school for almost 10 years and hadn't left for 10 years. She missed home and wanted to leave, but she couldn't. Therefore, after hearing Lin Wei's words, Yiling's gloomy face instantly lit up with anticipation. "I can leave this place?" Yiling asked Lin Wei in disbelief. Lin Wei was still a man of few words. He looked at Yiling, nodded, and then turned around to open the door, intending to leave for a while. Then, "Can I go home now?" Yiling's face was filled with disbelief. She looked at Lin Wei in disbelief and took 2 steps towards Lin Wei excitedly. However, just as she excitedly took 2 steps towards Lin Wei, Yiling didn't notice the smooth ground and fell directly in front of Lin Wei in the next second. Yiling had developed well and was very plump. With this slip, her ample bosom directly fell onto Lin Wei's arm. Feeling the warmth, Lin Wei's calm expression changed drastically. This is... Fortunately, Lin Wei's face was facing the door, so Yiling couldn't see his expression. By now, Yiling had realized her rudeness just now. She stood up straight with a blush while Lin Wei's expression returned to normal. "Watch the ground when you're walking. Why are you running around?" To ease the situation just now, Lin Wei coughed lightly and scolded Yiling. Yiling blinked. For some reason, she wasn't afraid of his scolding at all. "Softer, softer, Yun Jian tried her best not to make a sound as Ce pressed her against the edge of the cliff to do something embarrassing. Her face was as red as an apple. Ce kept his eyes on Yun Jian. With a smile on his face, most of his anger dissipated. His Xiao Jian was the prettiest at this moment. Just as Ce was hugging Yun Jian, Joseph's voice came from afar. He did not stop even when there were people coming over, and even after Ce tidied up Yun Jian's clothes, Yun Jian pushed Ce away and walked forward. Her legs were numb but she had good stamina and could still walk. Seeing that Yun Jian was ignoring him, Ce went up to hold her hand. "Xiao Jian?" Yun Jian shook Ce's hand off and walked back a little angrily. He was angry for no reason just now, and now it was her turn to piss him off. In fact, Yun Jian was inwardly overjoyed. Just as they got back, Joseph went up to Yun Jian with his friends when he saw her. "You're back? He didn't do anything to you, did he?" Joseph asked Yun Jian. Ce's expression darkened when he saw Joseph approaching Yun Jian again. He pulled Yun Jian into his arms and glared at Joseph from the corner of his eyes like a cheetah. Yun Jian ran her fingers through her hair without saying a word. Her face was terrifyingly red. "Yun Jian, why's your face so red? We all saw it just now. He pulled you out selfishly. Don't tell me he hit you?" "Yun Jian, don't be scared. If you meet a scumbag, we'll definitely help you." "Did he hit you? Your face is so red, right?" A charming woman in her 20s with dyed purple hair and a high nose stood beside Joseph. She glared at Ce when she saw how red Yun Jian was and wanted to speak up for Yun Jian. Joseph and his friends were looking at Yun Jian, thinking that Ce had abused Yun Jian and wanted to stand up for Yun Jian. Noticing that Joseph kept staring at Yun Jian, Ce's jealousy rose again. He glanced at Joseph from the corner of his eyes and said without batting an eyelid in front of everyone, "You're the one who's going to make a fool of yourself." Chapter 1903. Ce's straightforwardness made Yun Jian blush. He actually dared to say such a thing out so directly. It was as if he was afraid that Joseph and the rest didn't know what they did in the forest. Hearing Ce's words, Joseph, his friends, and the rest of them did not know how to react. Made a child? In the forest? Joseph and his companions were all stunned. Cough, cough, cough. Cough, cough, cough. Cough, cough. Nikla, who wanted to speak up for Yun Jian, had a boyfriend. Nikla was the first to react to Ce's words. In addition, she was wearing a black, sexy, secret agent miniskirt and a tight-fitting black outfit. There was a butterfly knife tied to one of her legs under the miniskirt that no one could see. However, when Enila lowered her head slightly, she could see that Yun Jian's fair thighs were red from the friction. It was obvious that she had done something bad. Cough, cough, cough. Where were we? The entrance to the central mainland will open in 3 days, right? Hurry up, let's continue with our preparations. Nikla was the first to react. She dragged Joseph and his other friends into the house while everyone else was still reacting to the situation. Awkward, a mysterious awkwardness. Nikla was misled by Joseph's words. She really thought that Ce had bullied or abused Yun Jian. Nikla thought that Yun Jian was just an ordinary girl. Nikla had a strong sense of justice. As a woman, if she saw Ce abusing or bullying Yun Jian, Nikla would definitely stand up for Yun Jian. Even if she had just met Yun Jian not long ago. But the man in front of her was a jealous king? He pulled her into the forest not to hit her, but, cough, cough, cough. She couldn't think about it anymore. Nikla flicked her purple hair and pushed Joseph and his friends into the house. Outside the house, Yun Jian tugged at the corner of her lips. Ce's lips curled as he grabbed Yun Jian's hand, satisfaction written all over his face. Without a marriage certificate, he could still declare his sovereignty. His Xiao Jian could only be his. No one could dream about it. Hardedef was considered the supervisor here. He arranged a room for Ce and Yunjian so that Ce and Yunjian could stay here at night and rest during the day. Yunjian and Ce rested here. In the next 3 days, Yunjian got to know Joseph, his friends Hardedef and the people here. They were all friendly. These people were all modest and friendly, especially Hardedef. As long as there were people who wanted to go to the central continent and wanted to explore it, or people who were interested in passing by, he would take them in. Unfortunately, Meng Zhang and his friends who had interrupted Ce's plan in the cave not long ago were taken in by Hardedef as well. Yunjian, who knew about this, did not appear in front of them, so Meng Zhang and his friends did not know that Yunjian and Ce were here as well. It was only on the 3rd day when Joseph announced that he had found the exact location of the central mainland that Yunjian and Ce appeared in front of everyone. Meng Zhang was stunned when he saw Yunjian and Ce. Wu Tianlin, who had been harboring ill intentions toward Yunjian, also glanced at Yunjian from the corner of his eyes. Although he knew Yunjian's identity before this, it was a huge blow to him. Hateful people were hateful. No matter how powerful they were, they could not change this reality. As for Wan Minglin, she could not help feeling jealous when she saw Ce with one hand in his pocket and the other holding Yunjian's hand. Why was such an outstanding man hers and not hers? Was it because she met him too late? Yunjian was also a student of the hunting academy. She was even related to an Hun group. Once she thought of this, Wan Minglin's heart clenched in jealousy. Is everyone ready? To be honest, I'm not sure if I can send everyone back this time. The other world is very dangerous, even life-threatening. If you don't want to take the risk, I advise you to stay. Chapter 1904. Joseph's words were said in all seriousness, as if he was making a solemn promise, but also as if he was a hero, a Superman. In Joseph's country, messiahs, heroes, and supermen were the targets that the boys yearned to be. And today Joseph stood in front of everyone like a hero, saying those touching words to everyone. No one would say such a thing. Joseph's words must have come with a lot of determination. The group of people standing beside Joseph were all moved. Yunjian blinked but didn't show any signs of being moved. In the end, everyone unanimously decided that except for John and the older ones, the younger ones would follow Joseph. Whether they could return from this trip to the other world was unknown, and whether they could find the entrance to the other world was also unknown. Of course, Joseph and the others didn't know that it was only a matter of time for Yunjian and Ce to find the entrance. The group of people followed Joseph and soon continued to move forward from the row of houses. Knowing that Joseph had been to the other world, everyone present was very interested. This was especially true for Wan Minglin. She followed closely behind Joseph and asked him about the other world he had been to. In the end, Wan Minglin felt as if she had been to the other world herself. It was as if she understood everything about the other world after listening to Joseph's words. Wan Minglin ran to Yunjian, raised her head proudly and boasted to Yunjian. Did you know that there are flying horses in the other world? It's the kind of horse that can fly just like the ones in fairy tales. Wan Minglin spoke as if she had been to the central mainland. Yunjian gave a cold smile and held Ce's large hand, ignoring Wan Minglin. This scene made Wan Minglin so angry that her face turned green. At this moment, Joseph suddenly pointed to a spot and said to everyone, "Look, it's that cave. It's glowing." At that time, I fell down from that cave and arrived in another world. I remember that the cave was glowing as well. It's glowing now. Let's hurry over. Otherwise, we won't be able to go to that world. Joseph led the group to a cave. At the same time, the cave suddenly emitted a white light. This scene shocked the surrounding people. At the same time, Joseph suddenly shouted, "Let's go." With that, Joseph led the way into the cave. Seeing this, the people around Joseph also rolled in one by one. How could Wan Minglin care about Yunjian and Ce now? She chased after them and rolled into the cave. There's a strong spiritual aura in the cave. Ce narrowed his eyes as he looked at the cave. Let's go over too. Yunjian glanced sideways at Ce. Okay. Ce grabbed Yunjian's hand and walked over. After everyone had entered the cave, the light in the cave was like a flash in the pan. It was as if it had never appeared in the first place. There was no more sound. Chapter 1905. Yunjian's expression changed slightly, but she didn't show any signs of panic. She knew what he was capable of. Not to mention the central mainland, even in the god's continent, he was a god at the top of the pyramid. He had the power to destroy the central mainland with a wave of his hand. Naturally, nothing would happen to him. But where did he go? Yunjian frowned. She didn't know. Are you still his girlfriend? Aren't you nervous that he's missing? Aren't you afraid? Shouldn't you be screaming? I don't think you're suitable to be his girlfriend. Do you think you can show off just because you're a student of the Hunter Academy? So what if you know the Inhun organization? This is another world. You're nothing here. I don't think you're qualified to be his girlfriend. Wan Minglin acted as if she was the legal wife and Yun Jian had stolen her away. After hearing that Ci was missing, she ran over to Yun Jian and yelled at Yun Jian when she saw how calm Yun Jian was. The reason why Wan Minglin was suddenly not afraid of Yun Jian and ran over to Yun Jian was because they had entered a new world. Yun Jian was nothing here. Minglin, stop talking. This is not the place we know. Don't talk like a cannon. Be careful of getting yourself into trouble. Meng Zhang couldn't help but yell at Wan Minglin. Surrounded by a large forest, the air was filled with smoke. White fog filled the entire sky, giving people a feeling as if they had entered a fantasy paradise. This is the central mainland. Everyone follow me. I know a friend here. He's the second young master of the Long family, one of the three great families of the central mainland. Joseph stood up and said. Thus Joseph led the group to the Long family. Brother Joseph has been to this world before. You're amazing. You even know someone from this world. Wan Minglin had been pestering Joseph all this while. Now she even called him brother. Wan Minglin felt proud of herself for being so close to Joseph. Thus she turned to look at Yun Jian. Wan Minglin glared fiercely at Yun Jian when she thought about the fact that Ci was missing and how calm Yun Jian was. She looked like she was bragging about herself but also like she was mocking Yun Jian. Yun Jian ignored her completely. Hearing Wan Minglin's words, Joseph scratched his head embarrassedly. Not at all. We just met by accident. Just as Joseph and his group arrived at the Long family, which was ranked third among the three great families of the central continent, the Long family, when he entered the door, he saw such a scene. The inner courtyard of the Long family was filled with corpses. In the sky above the Long family's courtyard, an expert was baptizing the Long family. It was obvious that the Long family was about to be exterminated. As for the Long family's clan leader, he was resisting the attacks of that expert with all his might. Clearly he was on the verge of collapsing. The group of young men and women beside the Long family's patriarch were the descendants of the Long family. Seeing this bloody scene, Joseph and the surrounding people cried out in alarm. When the second young master of the Long family saw Joseph, his pupils constricted and he shouted at Joseph, Go! Go! Joseph! Leave this place! Run! In the central continent, it was common for families to fall. Sometimes, a powerful expert with strong spiritual power could exterminate a family. Joseph was stunned when he heard this. Wan Minglin was so frightened that she turned around and wanted to run. Hee. Since you're here, don't leave. Stay here. The expert flying in the sky waved his hand and closed the door. Wan Minglin originally wanted to be the first to run out, but the door was closed tightly. She was so frightened that she sat on the ground and trembled. Why did they have to encounter such a thing? What a coincidence, they came here just when the Long family was about to be exterminated. It's actually a human without any spiritual power. The expert discovered that Joseph and the rest did not have any spiritual power and was surprised. He then relaxed his attack on the Long family's patriarch. Interesting. You're actually from Earth. All of you will become my dinner. The expert pointed his spear at everyone. For a moment, everyone, including Wan Minglin, was so frightened that they did not dare to move. One must know that there were immortal cultivators in this world. If an immortal cultivator moved a finger, they would not be able to fight back at all. Just as the expert was about to kill everyone with a wave of his hand, however, a blinding light shot out from Yun Jian's hand in front of everyone and easily blocked the attack. Seeing this, the expert's pupils constricted. This little girl was actually able to block his attack. One must know that this little girl did not have any spiritual power. In the various continents, there were only two reasons why one could not see the other party's spiritual power. First, the other party was a human from Earth. Second, the other party's spiritual power was higher than his. Could it be that this little girl? The expert was stunned, then he frowned and asked Yun Jian, Who are you? At this moment, everyone looked at Yun Jian. However, Yun Jian released her aura in front of everyone. She looked directly into the expert's eyes without fear. Suddenly she curled her lips and sneered. Just like 1,000 years ago when she was famous across the continents for killing the gods, all the experts of the continents were frightened by her name. She said coldly, Despicable commoner, listen carefully to the question of who I am. Chapter 1906. At this moment Yun Jian's aura was fully unleashed. That powerful aura made everyone present shudder. Meng Zhang, Wu Tianlin, Wan Minglin, Joseph, Nikolai, and the rest felt their hearts skip a beat. Yun Jian's words made the powerhouse fly in the air in a daze. He could not react for a while. Not to mention the Long family, the last of the three major families in the central mainland. When Joseph brought his people here, the Long family, who could not withstand the powerhouse's attack and were about to be wiped out, only wanted to curse when they saw Joseph and the rest. Were they stupid? Coming here at this juncture was asking for death. However, the Long family did not expect such a huge change. They were not mistaken. A ray of light flew out from the hand of the human girl who did not have any spiritual power and blocked the powerhouse's attack. The girl even called herself Sorcerer Goddess? In the legends, she had been to the gods' continent that no one could reach or even know if it existed in this world. She had even killed the gods of the gods' continent with her bare hands. The Sorcerer Goddess, the daughter of the Sorcerer clan from the Sorcerer clan of the Yulong continent. The Sorcerer Goddess, the youngest and most powerful of the Sorcerer clan. She had led the Yulong continent from the bottom of the tens of thousands of continents to an existence that no other continent could rival except for the legendary gods' continent. Back then, the Yulong continent was the lowest level continent among the tens of thousands of continents. The people of the Yulong continent were existences that could be trampled on by any continent. Later on, the Sorcerer clan, the number one family of the Yulong continent, produced a Sorcerer Goddess. In just a few years, this girl named Sorcerer Goddess led the Yulong continent to become the most powerful continent among the tens of thousands of continents other than the legendary gods' continent. Later on, the Sorcerer Goddess fell. Although the Yulong continent was not as powerful as before, it was no longer a continent that could be trampled on by anyone. Later on, there were rumors that the Sorcerer Goddess had been to the gods' continent and had killed the gods of the gods' continent. The Sorcerer Goddess of the Yulong continent was a great figure that was respected and feared by tens of thousands of continents. The most appropriate example was that if the immortal cultivators of the tens of thousands of continents had children who were fooling around and refused to cultivate spiritual power, the parents would only need to say in front of their children, "Stop fooling around. If you don't listen to me, I'll let the Sorcerer God eat you." This child would definitely be so scared that his entire body would tremble, and he would immediately run off to cultivate his spiritual power. However, the Sorcerer God, who had struck fear into the hearts of millions of people, had already fallen. Apart from the Yulong continent, no one from the other continents knew about the return of the Sorcerer God. Therefore, when Yun Jian finished speaking, everyone present was dumbfounded. Of course, this was only limited to the expert flying in the sky and the people of the Long family. Ni Kra, Meng Zhang, Wu Tianlin, Wan Menglin, and the others did not know the meaning of the two words Sorcerer God. Seeing that everyone was stunned, Wan Menglin was also stunned. Then she glanced at Yun Jian disdainfully. In front of everyone she wanted to be in the limelight, so she said, "What is Sorcerer God?" After saying that, Wan Menglin looked at Yun Jian. Her face was full of mockery, contempt, and deep reproach. "Yun Jian, what kind of critical moment is this? Can you be a little more mindful? Do you think you're still on Earth? Do you think that if you pretend to be from the Yulong continent, people will give you face? Don't think too highly of yourself. It's fine if you want to die, but please don't bring harm to all of us." Something like this was happening in the Long family of the central mainland. At the same time, in the deity continent. The deity continent really existed, and it stood at the top of the millions of continents. It required a strong spiritual power to open the passage to the deity continent. Similarly, to leave the deity continent to go to the millions of continents or Earth, one also needed to open the passage. There were no more than 10 deities on the deity continent who could open the passage to or from the deity continent. Therefore, even if the deities on the deity continent really existed, they could not stand in front of everyone. The deity continent, the temple. The temple was the symbol of the deity continent. At the same time, it was also the place where the ruler of the deity continent lived. It symbolized supreme glory. All the deities on the deity continent were under the jurisdiction of the ruler of the temple. In the temple, an old man sat in the middle of the main hall, eating meat and drinking wine. A man walked in from outside the temple. This man was extremely handsome. His tall and slender figure was so perfect that it made people gasp in amazement. Even the splendor of the divine hall was overshadowed by his handsome face. The old man took a bite of chicken. When he saw the man, he was stunned. Then he cheered, "Yo, the ruler of our deity continent, the Lord Divine Lord, is finally willing to come home?" As he spoke, the old man took a bite of chicken drumstick and a sip of wine. He looked at the man left and right as if he was looking for someone. When he could not find the person, the old man scolded the man with dissatisfaction. Chapter 1907. As the old man spoke, he took another bite of the drumstick and drank a mouthful of wine with it, looking extremely satisfied. Siyi's gaze darkened as he glanced at the old man from the corner of his eyes. Suddenly, he stretched out his right hand and grabbed the air in front of the old man. The old man, who had been sitting comfortably on the short table, was suddenly pulled up by a force and hovered in the air. The drumstick in his hand fell off and spun in front of him. The old man wanted to grab his drumstick, but there was a force that prevented him from doing so. The old man could not break Siyi's spiritual energy even after exhausting all his spiritual energy. Burp. The old man burped first and hovered in the air, glaring at Siyi with his not-so-ferocious eyes before continuing. Brat, are you trying to kill your father? Hurry up and put me down. You chased after the sorcerer goddess back then and only came back to see me after thousands of years. You're being rude to me the moment you come back. Be careful or I'll spank you. As he spoke, the old man even clenched his fist at Siyi like an old child. The temple was where the ruler of Deity Continent resided. The ruler of Deity Continent was also the ruler of the gods. It was the symbol of supremacy, the symbol of ultimate capability. Siyi was the ruler of Deity Continent. Lord Deity was the title the gods of Deity Continent gave him. This old man was Lord Deity's father, the Lord Deity. At the same time, the old man was also the previous ruler of Deity Continent. Lord Deity was the title the gods gave to the previous ruler. At this moment, the Lord Main God, who was revered by all the gods, was hovering in the air, unable to land on the ground. Old man, let me give you a piece of advice. If the beloved disciples you sent to tail her dare show up again, don't blame me for killing them. Siyi looked at the old man coldly as he uttered those words. Every time he was alone with Xiao Jian or wanted to do something, the annoying fellows the old man sent to watch their every move would appear. If it were not for the old man's dignity, he would have destroyed those fellows directly. With that, he retracted his hand and his spiritual energy dissipated. Like a bird with a broken wing, the old man fell from the air without any warning and landed back where he had been sitting just now. With a loud thud, the old man groaned and rubbed his butt to face Siyi, feeling wronged. How can you treat your old man like this? Brat. Be careful, or I'll make the sorcerer goddess Cutie ignore you forever. How dare you? Siyi's eyes darkened when he heard that the old man wanted her to ignore him forever. The old man was terrified. Seeing the change in Siyi's expression, he quickly waved his hand. No, I'll listen to you. Which goddess Cutie is yours? And I dare not snatch her from you. He wasn't being a coward. He was just going easy on him. The old man wiped the sweat off his brow and instantly felt that it was fortunate that he had cleared up the relationship with the little girl one step ahead of him. He was now the sorcerer goddess Cutie's master. On the other side, after Wan Minglin mocked Yun Jian, the surroundings were silent. After 2 seconds of silence, the Long family master suddenly looked at Wan Minglin. He didn't even care about the experts who were flying in the sky and almost annihilating the Long family. Wan Minglin was still feeling smug at this moment, but the Long family master suddenly looked at Wan Minglin and said to his Long family guards, "Capture that woman." According to the continent's practice of speaking rudely to the sorcerer goddess, that woman should be burned alive. Shatter his soul and scatter his soul. This practice was a rule set by the continents 1,000 years ago. Anyone who spoke rudely to the sorcerer goddess would have their soul shattered after being burned to death. Their soul would be destroyed. They would never be able to reincarnate. What kind of practice is this? You're treating human lives like grass. Is there any law? Wan Minglin was so frightened that she fell to the ground. Her face darkened as she shouted. Meng Zhang, Wu Tianlin, and the others were also shocked. What kind of practice was this? Speaking rudely to Yun Jian. She actually wanted to burn her alive, shatter her soul, and destroy it? Meng Zhang, Wu Tianlin, and Ai Kila, and the others present couldn't understand. Yun Jian, who was standing on the same spot, smirked slightly. She turned her head to the side and faced Wan Minglin in front of everyone. She was cold and full of vigor, as if she was the ruler of all things. Her words rang out. The words that came out of her mouth stunned everyone present. Her vigor, her arrogance. Chapter 1908. The sorcerer goddess was the law of the land. This was not an exaggeration at all. Yun Jian had the unique aura of the sorcerer goddess. Even if the Long family and the powerhouses in the sky did not believe it, they could not do it. Who else could have such a strong aura other than the sorcerer goddess? Although they were not within 3 meters of Yun Jian, they could not detect if there was really no spiritual power within 3 meters of the sorcerer goddess. However, with Yun Jian's aura just now, no one else in the world could do it except for the sorcerer goddess. Sorcerer goddess. The head of the Long family suddenly knelt down in front of Yun Jian and shouted. Seeing this, the younger generation of the Long family knelt down and imitated the head of the Long family to kowtow to Yun Jian. In an instant, the scene was extremely chaotic. The only thing that was left in the crowd's ears was the words, sorcerer goddess. It was obvious that the sorcerer goddess was very impressive back then. Even today, thousands of years later, when they heard the words, sorcerer goddess, all the families in the mainland would still kneel down and kowtow to her. In an instant, the words, sorcerer goddess, shook the sky. The powerhouse who was so arrogant in front of the crowd just now wanted to escape when he saw that the situation was not right. However, Yun Jian, who was in front of the crowd, stretched out her hand. She did not even look at the powerhouse. She used her spiritual power to grab the powerhouse's body and squeezed gently. The powerhouse who could annihilate Long family, the tail of Central Mainland's 3 dominant families, all by himself, was killed the moment Yun Jian pinched him lightly in the air. Exploded. The powerhouse's eyes widened. The second before he exploded in front of the crowd, he looked at Yun Jian in disbelief, but he had no choice but to believe it. In the next second, the powerhouse's body was completely destroyed. Not even his bones could be found. He completely disappeared in front of the crowd. Seeing this scene, the head of the Long family and the rest of the Long family gasped in shock. As expected of the sorcerer goddess. She was so powerful that no one could defeat her. That powerhouse just now had the ability to force the Long family into a dead end by himself. But as the sorcerer deity, Yun Jian was able to destroy such a powerful expert with just a pinch of her fingers. Seeing this scene, the people from the Long family sighed, but they didn't want to die. They had seen this kind of scene many times. However, Wan Minglin and the others were so scared that their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. She kill. Wan Minglin was so scared that she stuttered, unable to let out a fart for a long time. However, just as Wan Minglin stuttered for a long time without saying a word, Yun Jian suddenly felt a huge wave of spiritual energy around her. She narrowed her eyes and in the next second, her figure flashed and chased in the direction of the huge wave of spiritual energy. Whether it was the Long family or Joseph's group, since she had come to the central continent, she did not plan to stay for long. At this moment, Yun Jian didn't say anything and just chased after the figure with huge spiritual energy fluctuations. 2 shadows that were as fast as phantoms shuttled through the forest. In the next moment, the figure in front of him landed on the ground. Yun Jian couldn't help but narrow her eyes at someone who could run so far in front of her. This person must be a god from the gods' continent. Apart from the gods' continent's gods, there was no one else who could run so far in front of her before she caught up to them. In the next breath, Yun Jian grabbed the shoulder of the figure who was running at high speed. You've been watching me since we were in the hunting school. What's your motive? After Yun Jian grabbed the figure's owner, her cold voice rang out. The person whose shoulder was grabbed by Yun Jian was a woman who was slightly taller than Yun Jian and had a voluptuous figure. The woman was looking straight ahead, so Yun Jian couldn't see her face clearly. Hearing that Yun Jian had discovered her long ago, the woman was obviously shocked. However, Yun Jian's words rang out again. These words made the woman even more flabbergasted. Chapter 1909. If what Yun Jian said just now was not shocking enough, the way she addressed her as senior sister was a huge blow to the woman's ego. How did she know? The woman thought so and asked, "How do you know who I am? Master met you on Earth but we've never met. How do you know of my existence?" He speaks the truth when he's drunk. Apart from me he only has one disciple. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and smiled. Obviously Master Bailey spoke the truth when he was drunk. He told Yun Jian that he had another female disciple apart from Yun Jian. The woman was speechless when she heard that. She felt like she had been betrayed by her stupid master. The woman didn't feel like she had betrayed her master's trust when she was caught stalking her and recognized her identity. "Alright, since you recognized me, I won't hide anymore." The woman turned around and looked at Yun Jian. What entered Yun Jian's eyes was a woman's face with an ancient charm. The woman had a strong scholarly smell, but her body was so charming that men couldn't stop looking at her. Her seemingly innocent face, coupled with her voluptuous breasts and plump buttocks, made her look cold, gentle, sexy, and a little mysterious. It had to be said that an ordinary person would give off a strange feeling if they were to have these characteristics. However, when everything was presented on this woman, there was a unique kind of beauty that opened people's eyes. Even Yun Jian couldn't help but blink. "I've heard that you're the only disciple apart from me. Strictly speaking, you're my junior sister. The woman reached out her hand to Yun Jian and said boldly, "It's my first time meeting you. I'm Huang Yin, the first disciple of the deity continent's master god." The woman who called herself Huang Yin was very bold and straightforward. She had the refreshing feeling of a heroine. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and reached out to shake her hand. She rarely shook hands, so the people who could shake hands with her must be people she was happy to know. After shaking hands with him, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and smiled faintly. Yun Jian, daughter of the sorcerer clan of the sorcerer tribe of the Yulong continent, sorcerer goddess. After Yun Jian finished speaking, the two of them got to know each other for the first time. When Huang Yin heard this, he curled his lips. "I know you. Master asked me to investigate a lot of information about you. He chased you from Earth to the central continent and asked me to keep an eye on you. I didn't expect that I would be exposed right from the start." As Huang Yin spoke, he drew an arc. Yun Jian was not stupid. Naturally, it was impossible for her not to have guessed the identity of her master by now. Just now, Huang Yin had also said that she was the #1 disciple of the master god of the gods continent. In other words, her teacher was the master god of the gods continent. When Yun Jian was the sorcerer goddess, she had been to the gods continent. Perhaps she hadn't recovered some specific memories yet, but she still knew what the gods continent's master gods represented. The master god of the gods continent was the previous ruler of the gods continent. At the same time, he was also the master god's father. Yun Jian, who knew the truth, curled the corners of her lips. When she thought of her master's childish appearance and the identity of the master god of the gods continent, it was really inappropriate. "Originally, after being discovered by you, I should have taken you directly to the gods continent, but I'm not strong enough. When I came here, it was Master who opened the passage to leave the gods continent for me. If I want to go back, Master will come to pick me up 3 days later," Huang Yin said seriously. "I can open it," Yun Jian answered. "What?" Huang Yin was stunned. "I can open the passage to the gods continent," Yun Jian repeated in detail. After Huang Yin heard this, he was really stunned. "I've long heard rumors of your strength in the gods continent. You've even killed a god from the gods continent. I've always thought that you were able to go to the gods continent because some expert let you in. After all, there are no more than 10 gods in the gods continent who can open the passage to the gods continent." Chapter 1910. Huang Yin was a little shocked. She was a god of the gods continent after all. Even if she was shocked, she would not show it on her face. Hence, the two of them headed to the entrance of the gods continent. If they wanted to go to the gods continent, they had to activate the teleportation circle at the designated location. There were no more than 10 people in the world who could activate the teleportation circle at the designated location. Apart from Yun Jian, the rest were all gods of the gods continent. However, even Yun Jian had to go through the designated location to activate the teleportation circle to the gods continent. When Huang Yin came out of the gods continent, it was the master god who activated the teleportation circle at the designated location. The designated location to the gods continent was the Tan family, the leader of the 3 great families of the central continent. At the same time, in the hunting school, Yiling had stayed in the hunting school for so many years. She had very few things that belonged to her. She only had 2 sets of clothes and almost nothing else. For example, the dead 211 and the group of women who were with him had stayed in the hunting school for so many years. However, 211 and the group of women who were with him had beautiful clothes and jewelry. They were all luxury goods that could be sold at a good price. This was because those things were obtained by 211 and the group of women using their bodies in exchange for those things. Yiling packed her things in the girls' dormitory building and waited excitedly for Lin Wei downstairs. She could finally leave the hunting school. At this moment, the excitement in Yiling's heart could not be described with words. Lin Wei didn't pack anything. Seeing Yiling waiting for him downstairs in the female dormitory, he walked over in a few steps and wanted to help her carry her luggage. No, I can carry it myself. Yiling carried her luggage with both hands and wanted to reject Lin Wei's kindness. However, Lin Wei grabbed the luggage that Yiling was carrying with both hands and left with Yiling, not allowing her to refuse. Just as they got into Lin Wei's Maserati sports car, Yiling hugged her luggage and asked Lin Wei, "Where are we going? Can I go home now?" "Travel." Lin Wei was still a man of few words. He gave Yiling a simple reply. "Travel?" Yiling was stunned. If Adam or Snow Eagle were here, they would probably be stunned by Lin Wei's words. Traveling? In the past, when Adam went on a trip with the Snow Eagle organization, Lin Wei rejected them very straightforwardly. The reason was only one word: boredom. Yiling naturally didn't know this, but she wanted to go home, so she turned her head to look at Lin Wei, pursed her lips and asked Lin Wei, "Then after the trip, can I go home?" "Okay." Lin Wei agreed. Yiling's heart was suddenly filled with excitement. However, Lin Wei's next sentence broke Yiling's excitement. He said, "You can after you give birth to the child." Yiling was speechless. Why was he so obsessed with having children? On the other side, in the Tan family, the leader of the three great families in the central mainland, there was a mountain not far from the Tan family's residence. Beside the mountain there was an abandoned array. Legend had it that as long as this array was activated, one would be able to head to the deity's continent. However, this was only a legend. However, beside this abandoned formation, there was sufficient spiritual energy. In layman's terms, cultivating beside this abandoned formation would be 10 times faster than cultivating outside. Therefore, under normal circumstances, the disciples of the Tan family would cultivate beside this abandoned formation. When Yun Jian and Huang Yan arrived, they saw many disciples of the Tan family cultivating beside this abandoned formation. Although this formation was abandoned, as long as enough spiritual energy was injected into this formation, the abandoned formation could be opened and one could head to the deity's continent. Yun Jian and Huang Yan had just arrived, but before they could reach the abandoned formation, they were stopped by someone. "Who are you? What are you doing here? Don't you know that this is a forbidden area? Other than the people of the Tan family, outsiders are not allowed to enter." Chapter 1911. The Tan family was actually responsible for guarding the passage between the God's continent and the other continents. They were the guardian family of this abandoned Dharma array. At the same time, the strength of the Tan family's disciples was also very strong. That was because cultivating at the entrance to the God's continent, which was the abandoned Dharma array, could be 10 times faster than cultivating outside. Therefore, among the thousands of continents, the Tan family's strength could not be underestimated. At the same time, the Tan family had also guarded this abandoned Dharma array for generations in order to prevent some bad people from getting close to the Dharma array and destroying it. When Huang Yan came out of the God's continent, she was not discovered by anyone in the Tan family. As for the matter of the sorcerer god going to the God's continent and killing the gods of the God's continent, it was also spread by the ancestors of the Tan family. This was because the ancestors of the Tan family had seen the sorcerer god open this abandoned Dharma array and go to the God's continent with their own eyes. Now, after a long time, the people of the Tan family still firmly believed that the God's continent really existed in this world. They had been guarding this abandoned Dharma array, absorbing the spiritual power emitted by the Dharma array and protecting it. At this moment, the burly man standing in front of Yun Jian and Huang Yan was looking at Yun Jian and Huang Yan with a vicious expression. Seeing that Yun Jian and Huang Yan did not move or leave, and the second young master Tan man roared at Yun Jian and Huang the same mother. "Why are you still not leaving?" Yun Jian could tell at a glance that the person who had just roared at her and Huang Yan, telling them not to leave quickly, was the eldest young master. Even if they were cultivators, the Tan family had been scared away by the man's ferocious expression and terrifying aura. He was not handsome, but he was the future heir of the Tan family. The man Tan Liang was the exact opposite of Tan Ming. Are you going to be kind again? Tan Liang was handsome and was highly sought after by girls. Trespassers will die. Tan Liang had been eyeing Tan Ming's position as the future successor of the Tan family for a long time. Forbidden area will be killed without mercy. Had roared at Yun Jian and Huang Yan. You have already let go of two people who mistakenly entered our Tan family's forbidden area. If you ignore our Tan family's rules like this, ordinary people inherit our Tan family's great cause in the future. Tan Ming, who had hurriedly walked over and roared at Yun Jian and Huang Yan, who enters our Tan family's forbidden area. He wanted them to quickly run away before Tan Liang could arrive. Roared at Yun Jian. That was why he had revealed such a young man behind him led a group of Tan family disciples over. Tan Liang had been staring at them for a long time. The tall and sturdy man was the eldest son of the Tan family, Tan Ming. They just happened to pass by. He was also the next successor of the Tan family. Tan Ming, for the young man following behind, the one who had spoken to Tan Ming, he turned to look at Yun Jian and Huang Yan and roared, "The Tan family, why aren't the two of you scram?" The Tan family had two young masters. Also to save Yun Jian and Huang Yan. Yun Jian, who was opposite him, narrowed her eyes slightly. At this moment, a young girl standing not far away stared at Yun Jian and Huang Yan and said, "Big brother, second brother is right. They have broken into our Tan family's forbidden area. They must die." After the young girl finished speaking, she turned her eyes to Yun Jian with a fierce expression. "Speak, what are you doing here? Tell me your purpose and I'll let you die quickly. I'll send you to our Tan family servants and let you enjoy a round of female family happiness before you die. Then I'll send you to heaven." The young girl who spoke was the Tan family's fifth Miss, Tan Tingling. Tan Tingling's words were not polite at all. The meaning behind her words was extremely unpleasant. This abandoned Dharma array had been abandoned for many years. Other than the sorcerer god, the Tan family had never seen anyone who could open the Dharma array that led to the deity's continent. Therefore, the young girl and the people of the Tan family naturally did not think that Yun Jian and Huang Yan were here to open the Dharma array. Opening the Dharma array that led to the deity's continent was simply something that ordinary people could not do. Even in the deity's continent, there were only a mere 10 people who could do this. Therefore, everyone concluded that Yun Jian and Huang Yan must have come to destroy the abandoned Dharma array. However, just when everyone thought so, they saw that Yun Jian, who was standing in front of everyone, narrowed her eyes slightly after hearing the young girl's words. In the next breath, an ancient and heavenly female voice clearly reached everyone's ears. Hearing this, everyone's faces changed greatly. These words seemed to have come from thousands of years ago, but they were still arrogant. Chapter 1912. Yun Jian's eyes darkened slightly. She said this very calmly. However, after hearing Yun Jian's words, everyone present was stunned. Everyone present was someone who had weathered many storms and waves. They quickly regained their senses. The sorcerer god of Yulong continent? Tan Tingling, who had been acting like a spoiled brat, was stunned and asked Yun Jian this question. The reason why the Tan family was guarding this abandoned formation was so that one day, they would be able to see the supreme deity from the god's continent. They had absolute respect for the sorcerer god who could enter and leave God's continent. Moreover, the Tan family believed that this abandoned formation could lead to God's continent after it was activated. God's continent really existed in this world. In addition, if the gods wanted to enter God's continent, they had to pass through this formation. After hearing Yun Jian's words, Tan Tingling's expression changed abruptly. When Tan Ming and Tan Liang heard this, their expressions changed drastically as well. After Tan Ming's expression changed, he hurriedly said to the Tan family disciples behind him, "Hurry up and find Father." Regardless of whether the sorcerer god was the real one, they had to call the Tan family's patriarch, who was also their father, over first. "There's no need." The one who spoke now was Huang Yan. "Junior sister, let's go." Huang Yan turned his head and spoke to Yun Jian. Yun Jian nodded. Because of Yun Jian's words, the Tan family members did not dare to stop her. The group of people watched as Yun Jian and Huang Yan walked toward the abandoned formation. Was she really the sorcerer god? Tan Tingling wiped her sweat carefully and looked at Yun Jian. Just as she was about to speak, Yun Jian was interrupted. A scene that shocked Tan Tingling, Tan Ming and Tan Liang happened. Yun Jian extended her hand and pointed it at the abandoned formation. In the next second, a powerful spiritual power surged out of her hand and poured into the abandoned formation. The formation on the ground suddenly spun. In the end, a white light flashed and pulled Yun Jian and Huang Yan into it. The wind blew gently. After the white light flashed, Yun Jian and Huang Yan disappeared from where they were. It was as if nothing had happened. It's really the sorcerer god. Back then, when the sorcerer god was still young, he killed the deities of the god's continent and became the strongest existence among the thousands of continents. The sorcerer god has returned. Quick, go and spread the news. Let everyone know that the king of the myriad continents has returned. When everyone in the Tan family saw this, they were so frightened that they knelt at the spot where Yun Jian had disappeared. Their exclamations, shouts, and cheers were thunderous. 1,000 years ago, the sorcerer god was the god in the hearts of the people of every continent. Today, 1,000 years later, she was still an immortal legend. Wherever he went, he was respected by tens of thousands of people. Shinming continent. Siyi was about to leave to find his Xiao Jian when he was stopped by the old man. Just play a round of chess with your cute old man. Just this once. Later I'll give you my cute little disciple. You can play with her however you want. The old man pestered Siyi with his words. Siyi stayed. When the game of chess ended and Siyi turned around, he saw the entrance of the temple. Yun Jian's petite figure stood at the entrance, her perfect figure paired with the face he was so familiar with and loved deeply. Siyi stared at Yun Jian and strode over. He went to Yun Jian in a few steps and pulled her into his arms. "How did you find your way here?" He was only here to warn the old man not to let his beloved disciple follow him and Xiao Jian again. Yun Jian knew that Siyi did not come here without telling her on purpose. Yun Jian was not surprised to see Siyi here either. It was because when she came, Huang Yan had told her everything. In spite of it, Yun Jian still pushed him away and ignored him, pretending to be annoyed. She would only act like this in front of him. After pushing Siyi away, Yun Jian went to the old man and bowed to him, saying softly, "Master, I finally found you. Thank you for teaching me back then." Yun Jian was genuinely grateful. When she was slaying God, she did not have the memories of the sorcerer god. She was no different from a normal human being back then. If it were not for her master, she might have died in that ruthless world. Hey, don't. What's there to bow and thank? We're family. I still want to live for a few more years. The old man waved his hand at Yun Jian in fright after being glared at with murderous intent. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.